Picture a chaotic swarm of captured rocks and icy spheres swirling around a colossal gas giant, constantly threatening to tear each other apart in the freezing dark. Yet, amidst this violent and unpredictable maelstrom, 3 massive moons execute a delicate, eternal waltz of absolute mathematical precision. They are caught in a deeply protective gravitational lock that prevents their destruction, ticking away the millennia like a grand cosmic metronome. Imagine a scorched ancient world of iron enduring the searing, overwhelming heat of our sun's inner core. Rather than being ripped apart by the crushing gravity of its parent star, this tiny planet has surrendered to a state of extreme, rhythmic tension, perfectly synchronizing its slow spin with its fiery orbit. It is a surreal landscape where the sun itself appears to stop and move backward in the sky, bound forever by invisible threads of time. Surprisingly, this profound drive toward balance is the ultimate destiny for almost every celestial body wandering through the trackless void. The most intimate and beautiful destination of any cosmic journey is a state of absolute unchanging synchronicity, where 2 worlds lock eyes across the darkness and never look away. It is a final, peaceful embrace that brings profound structural stillness to a universe that is otherwise defined by frantic, violent motion. This sweeping celestial clockwork might seem unimaginably vast and impossibly distant, but its governing principle of harmony is playing out right here in the quiet of your room. As your breathing slows and your tired muscles release their final hold on the waking world, you're syncing with the very same rhythmic laws that quiet the oldest stars. You're safe, and these wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep. If we were to look closer at the endless black ocean above, we would clearly see that the apparent chaos of the cosmos is entirely an illusion. Every wandering stone, every rushing comet, and every raging storm eventually finds its proper, resting place within this majestic, hidden architecture of gravity. Deep within the Jovian system, an immense and silent clockwork governs the darkness of space. Deep within the Jovian system, an immense and silent clockwork governs the darkness of space. Jupiter, a swirling colossus of gas and storms, commands a vast retinue of captured rocks and icy spheres, but 3 of its largest companions stand apart from the chaotic swarm. They're caught in a delicate, eternal waltz that defies the seemingly random nature of the cosmos. This perfect gravitational rhythm is not a mere coincidence of celestial mechanics. It is the result of eons of subtle pulls and invisible tethers, locking these massive moons into a synchronized march around their gigantic host. The sheer scale of this choreography is difficult to comprehend, as bodies the size of planets move with the precision of a finely tuned cosmic metronome. If we were to look closer, we would see that this rhythmic ticking shapes the very nature of these worlds. The gravitational bonds between them serve as an unseen architecture, structuring their orbits and preventing them from scattering into the void. It is a profound testament to the power of gravity to create order out of the primordial dust of our solar system. Sweeping closest to the banded giant, the fiercely volcanic moon Io races along its orbital track with frantic energy. It is locked in an unrelenting mathematical ratio with its much larger distant sibling Ganymede. For every single, slow journey Ganymede makes around Jupiter, restless Io is forced to complete exactly 4 frantic laps. This 4-to-1 relationship dictates the fundamental tempo of the inner Jovian system. It is a relentless, driving beat that ensures these 2 starkly different worlds remain forever tethered by the invisible strings of mutual gravity. Ganymede, a colossal sphere of ancient ice and rock, acts as the steady anchor, dictating the outer boundary of this resonant relationship. Such precision across millions of miles of empty space feels almost orchestrated by a grand designer. Yet, it is entirely the product of the ruthless, unyielding laws of physics that govern the celestial dance. The rapid, fiery circuits of Io and the sweeping glacial arcs of Ganymede are forever bound, ticking away the millennia in perfect, inescapable fractions of time. To those who chart the heavens, this breathtaking orbital harmony is formally known as the Laplace resonance. Named for the brilliant mathematician who first unravelled its elegant mechanics, it stands as one of the most sublime examples of gravitational clockwork ever discovered. It is a rare and precious alignment where multiple orbiting bodies force one another into exact, repeating integer ratios. This mathematical perfection is not a fleeting phenomenon, but a profoundly stable configuration that has persisted since the dawn of the solar system. The Laplace resonance acts as an invisible, self-correcting blueprint etched into the fabric of space itself. Whenever a moon threatens to drift even slightly from its designated tempo, the combined gravitational influence of its partners swiftly reins it back into harmony. Surprisingly, the universe seems to favour such orderly architectures when given enough time to settle its initial chaos. The discovery of this specific resonance fundamentally changed our understanding of how planetary systems evolve and mature over billions of years. It proved that gravity does not merely attract and destroy, it also harmonizes, creating enduring structures of stunning mathematical beauty. Picture the immense tidal forces gently squeezing and pulling Io's rocky crust with every cyclical alignment. As this fiery moon races through its inner orbit, the colossal gravity of Jupiter constantly battles against the rhythmic, outward tugs from its resonant siblings. This relentless gravitational tug-of-war subjects Io to unimaginable internal friction, kneading its solid rock like cosmic clay. Deep beneath its sulphurous surface, rock melts into vast subterranean oceans of magma. The rhythmic squeezing translates directly into heat, powering the most violent and continuous volcanic eruptions ever witnessed in our solar system. Plumes of silicate ash and freezing sulfur dioxide are blasted hundreds of miles into the vacuum of space, painting the moon in garish shades of yellow, red, and black. This continuous cycle of stress and release is a direct physical manifestation of the invisible mathematical ratio that binds the moons. Without the metronomic pull of Europa and Ganymede forcing its orbit into an ellipse, Io would have long ago settled into a quiet, frozen slumber. Instead, the orbital resonance keeps it eternally tortured and vibrantly, violently alive. Suspended perfectly between the volcanic hellscape of Io and the icy expanse of Ganymede, Europa dances gracefully in the middle of this gravitational arrangement. This enigmatic, ice-shelled moon maintains its own crucial timing, completing exactly 2 orbits for every single lap made by the outer anchor Ganymede. It represents the vital missing link in the 1:4 ratio that defines the Laplace resonance. This intermediate position grants Europa a profound internal warmth, generated by the same tidal squeezing that tortures its inner neighbour. However, because Europa's orbital flexing is less extreme than Io's, the resulting heat does not manifest as catastrophic volcanism. Instead, the gentle, rhythmic friction is just enough to maintain a vast, dark ocean of liquid water beneath miles of frozen surface ice. Every time Europa is squeezed between Jupiter and the outer moons, its icy shell groans and fractures, creating the beautiful, chaotic web of dark ridges that crisscross its bright face. The mathematical precision of its orbit is directly responsible for sustaining an environment that might harbour the ingredients for life. Thus, this graceful orbital waltz breathes potential vitality into a world that would otherwise be entirely dead. Such synchronized movements are not merely an aesthetic marvel, they serve as a critical defense against the inherent chaos of the early solar system. In a system crowded with massive bodies, gravitational interactions can quickly become erratic, leading to wildly shifting orbits and catastrophic collisions. The elegant ratios of the Laplace resonance act as a stabilizing anchor, locking these giant moons into predictable, safe trajectories. By enforcing a strict geometric relationship, the resonance ensures that the most powerful gravitational encounters between the moons always happen at the same specific points in their orbits. This prevents any single moon from exerting a cumulative, destabilizing pull that might tear a sibling from its path. The celestial clockwork effectively acts as a dampening system for gravitational turbulence. Through millions of years of gentle pushing and pulling, this synchronization has sculpted a peaceful haven in the otherwise turbulent vicinity of Jupiter. It demonstrates how competing gravitational forces can eventually balance one another out, forging an oasis of stability. The resulting harmony allows these ancient complex worlds to persist, undisturbed through the deep expanse of cosmic time. This architectural brilliance goes beyond simple stability. The rhythmic alignment creates a self-correcting gravitational mechanism that endures for millions, perhaps billions, of years. If a stray asteroid impact or a subtle shift in momentum causes one of the moons to speed up slightly, the entire system responds with remarkable resilience. The precise timing of their close encounters shifts, altering the direction of their mutual gravitational tugs. These altered pulls act as invisible brakes or accelerators, gently coaxing the wandering moon back toward its mathematically mandated position. It is as if the Jovian system possesses an innate cosmic memory, a deep-seated preference for its established resonant rhythm. The energy exchanged during these course corrections is seamlessly absorbed and redistributed among the three massive spheres. Witnessing this mechanism at play reveals a universe that is far more ordered and resilient than it often appears from our chaotic earthly perspective. The moons are not simply falling blindly through space, they're actively maintaining a complex dynamic equilibrium. This enduring balance ensures that the grand, sweeping mechanics of the Laplace resonance outlast the fading stars themselves. Every few earthly days, the immense clockwork reaches a critical juncture as the moons line up and exchange vital orbital energy. During these fleeting conjunctions, the icy plains of Europa and the tortured crust of Io face one another across the dark void, their immense masses reaching out through the vacuum. They deliver subtle, precisely timed gravitational nudges that act as the winding mechanism for their eternal clock. These regular impulses are small compared to the overwhelming dominance of Jupiter, but their persistent metronomic repetition is what commands the long-term fate of the orbits. Just as a child smoothly pumping their legs can drive a heavy playground swing ever higher, these tiny rhythmic pushes maintain the slight eccentricity of the moon's paths. Without these scheduled meetings, the orbits would gradually circularize, and the entire magnificent resonance would collapse into silence. The sheer reliability of these encounters is staggering to contemplate. Through the rise and fall of whole species on our distant Earth, these three spheres have faithfully kept their appointments in the Jovian night. Their silent, shifting alignments serve as the unyielding heartbeat of the largest planetary system in our solar neighbourhood. Imagine ascending through the violently swirling ammonia clouds of Jupiter to gaze upward at a phenomenon of unparalleled geometric beauty. In the high, freezing upper atmosphere of the gas giant, an observer would occasionally witness the sky arrange itself into a perfect straight line of massive spheres. The brilliant white ice of Europa, the bruised yellows of Io, and the mottled grey expanse of Ganymede would hang suspended like a cosmic necklace. This spectacular alignment is the visual crescendo of their hidden mathematical symphony, a fleeting moment where the invisible laws of gravity become starkly, breathtakingly visible. The combined light of the sun, reflecting off these diverse tortured terrains, would cast an eerie, shifting luminescence across Jupiter's turbulent cloud decks. It is a celestial event that eclipses any eclipse seen from Earth, both in its immense scale and its underlying significance. To see such order against the chaotic, storm-tossed backdrop of Jupiter is to witness the fundamental duality of the cosmos. It perfectly encapsulates the tension between violent, untamed nature and strict, unyielding physical laws. The alignment is a brief, glorious monument to the metronome that ticks silently through the vastness of the Jovian night. Ultimately, this steady, sweeping heartbeat of moons creates a profound sense of mathematical order, amidst the terrifying emptiness of the void. In a universe largely defined by exploding stars, colliding galaxies, and sprawling expanses of nothingness, the Laplace resonance offers a profound counter-narrative of harmony and precision. It proves that within the darkest, coldest reaches of space, elegance and structural perfection can naturally arise and endure. The silent ticking of Io, Europa and Ganymede is a comforting reminder that the cosmos is fundamentally governed by rules that we can perceive, calculate, and understand. Their synchronized dance strips away the terrifying unpredictability of the sky, replacing it with a grand, predictable architecture. It transforms a scattered collection of dead rocks and freezing ice into a single, cohesive living instrument. As we gaze through our telescopes at these distant pinpricks of light, we are not merely observing celestial bodies moving through space. We are listening to the deep, resonant heartbeat of gravity itself, keeping perfect time across the eons. The Jovian resonance stands as an eternal spinning monument to the breathtaking mathematical poetry written into the very foundation of the universe. The breathtaking mathematical poetry written into the very foundation of the universe echoes far beyond the realm of giant gas worlds, finding its most visually stunning expression in a swirling disk of frost. 1 billion miles from the warmth of the sun, a magnificent system of rings encircles a pale golden giant in absolute silence. These luminous bands of ice are not static, painted circles, but a dynamic, ever-flowing river of countless frozen fragments. Moving within this chaotic blizzard are unseen architects, tiny shepherd satellites that navigate the shimmering expanse with flawless precision. These diminutive worlds, barely large enough to pull themselves into spheres, wield a gravitational influence far out of proportion to their modest size. They glide along the very edges of the densest bands, constantly herding the chaotic spray of crystalline dust back into orderly formations. The sheer gravitational presence of these hidden shepherds prevents the icy debris from drifting away into the dark void or spiraling down into the crushing atmosphere below. Through countless, invisible adjustments, they sculpt the chaotic expanse into distinct, breathtakingly sharp ribbons of light. It is a continuous silent act of creation, maintaining a structure so vast it defies the imagination, all orchestrated by the gentlest of gravitational nudges. Deep within the heart of this vast frozen disk lies a striking feature of profound emptiness, a dark expanse that violently interrupts the brilliant reflective ice. For centuries, this wide gap remained a profound mystery to those who gazed at the golden planet through early, brass-bound lenses. It appeared as though a cosmic brush had simply wiped away a massive swath of the ring system, leaving nothing but an abyss of deep space behind. This dark corridor is not empty by chance, but is actively swept clean by a powerful orbital resonance shared with a heavily cratered, icy moon lurking far beyond the outer edge. The moon acts as a distant, relentless custodian, projecting its gravitational influence across thousands of miles of empty space to keep the lane perfectly clear. Every time this pitted satellite passes by, its invisible tether reaches into the gap, gently but firmly sweeping away any trespassing fragments of frost. The resulting chasm is a testament to the fact that absence in the cosmos is rarely accidental. It is usually the result of a highly structured unseen force. This sweeping division serves as a stark visual boundary, separating the dense, brilliant inner rings from the more diffuse outer bands. It is a boundary drawn not by physical walls, but by the undeniable rhythmic mathematics of gravitational attraction. As you let your breath slow, sinking deeper into the quiet comfort of your space, allow the gentle mechanics of this celestial void to fill your mind. Within that dark, sweeping gap, any rogue particle of ice that attempts to settle is subjected to a strict, uncompromising mathematical law. For every single, lonely journey the cratered moon makes around the golden giant, a particle inside the gap is forced to complete exactly 2 rapid circuits. This perfect 2-to-1 ratio transforms a stable orbit into an intensely hostile environment for any drifting piece of cosmic debris. Each time the particle completes its second lap, it finds itself perfectly aligned with the distant moon, receiving a cumulative rhythmic pull in the exact same outward direction. It is akin to pushing a swing at the precise moment it reaches its highest point, continuously adding energy until the motion becomes violently unstable. Eventually the ice chunk is stretched into a highly elliptical path, inevitably crashing into the dense neighbouring ring bands and leaving the division pristine once again. The empty space is therefore not a void, but a highly active zone of continuous eviction, governed by the relentless ticking of orbital physics. It beautifully illustrates how a simple harmony and timing can physically hollow out a chasm wide enough to swallow whole planets. Consider the fate of a singular glittering shard of frost that accidentally drifts into this forbidden zone after a minor collision in the main bands. Initially, its journey through the dark expanse seems peaceful, a quiet glide through a region starved of the chaotic crowding found elsewhere in the system. But the invisible architecture of the system immediately begins its slow, methodical work of course correction. The distant recurring tug of the resonance is not a violent sudden jerk, but rather a persistent rhythmic urging that builds up over countless years. With each passing orbit, the shard's perfectly circular path is distorted by just a fraction of a degree, slowly warping its trajectory. The universe is incredibly patient, applying these soft, almost imperceptible nudges with the steadfast reliability of a beating heart. Over time, the gentle compounding of these pulls stretches the shard's orbit until it inevitably intersects with the solid wall of the adjacent dense ring. It rejoins the chaotic, tumbling herd of its frozen brethren, its brief excursion into the silent gap brought to an end by the sheer force of harmony. The dark division is thus preserved, an eternal monument to the power of a repeating cosmic rhythm. Surprisingly, the vast luminous bands do not fade out into a gentle, dissipating haze of frost as they reach out into the deeper blackness of space. Instead, the extreme outer boundaries of these colossal structures are maintained with a sudden, razor-sharp edge that seems to defy the natural tendency of matter to spread. This abrupt termination line looks as though it were sliced by a cosmic blade, separating a blinding blizzard from the absolute void in the space of a few scant meters. This stunning boundary is the direct result of a continuous invisible wall built entirely out of orbital harmonies and the gravitational presence of nearby herding satellites. Whenever the natural momentum of the colliding ice particles threatens to spill outward, the precise resonance of the outer moons gently pushes the tide back inwards. It is a tireless, invisible dam holding back a turbulent sea of frozen water, maintained by the delicate balance of spinning worlds. The visual contrast is breathtaking, highlighting the profound difference between the organized interior of the system and the wild, empty space that surrounds it. This stark edge proves that gravity is capable of imposing extreme, unyielding boundaries even on the most fluid and chaotic materials. It transforms a sprawling, chaotic debris field into a sharply defined architectural masterpiece spinning in the dark. Let your shoulders drop and your muscles release their tension, much like the delicate dust-like material drifting through the most ethereal outer reaches of this golden system. Far beyond the dense, dazzling main bands, incredibly faint and narrow ringlets trace delicate, solitary paths through the dark. These fragile, ghostly ribbons are so sparse that the stars shine straight through them, yet they persist against all odds, refusing to dissipate. Their survival relies upon incredibly intimate one-to-one resonant relationships with tiny embedded moonlets that hide directly within the dusty strands themselves. These miniature shepherds share the exact same orbital path as the dust they govern, moving at the precise same speed in a shared harmonious journey around the central giant. They act as localized anchors, their minute gravitational fields sweeping up wandering particles and gently releasing them back into the thin continuous line. This shared orbit creates a deeply intimate cosmic dance, a continuous exchange of energy and material between the tiny solid world and its dusty companion. The ringlet is effectively the moonlet's extended atmosphere, a visible trail of its passage through the silent expanse. It is a fragile equilibrium, showcasing how even the weakest forces can bind matter together if the timing is absolutely perfect. Picture the smooth, seemingly solid surface of the brilliant inner rings, a vast expanse that appears as still and perfect as a frozen lake from a distance. However, when illuminated by the sun at a low angle, this illusion of calmness shatters, revealing a surface alive with incredibly slow-moving ripples and towering waves. These are not waves of water, but massive rolling corrugations of solid ice and rock, propagating through the dense disk. These spectacular disturbances are birthed wherever the unseen, resonant tethers of distant moons plunge into the dense material of the rings. Like a stone dropped into a quiet pond, the gravitational nudge creates a localized compression, a sudden crowding together of billions of icy shards. This crowded zone then pushes against its neighbours, launching a slow, majestic spiral wave that begins to travel outward across the entire system. Because the material is so thinly spread, these gravitational waves move with agonizing slowness, taking years to cross the width of a single band. They are physical manifestations of pure energy travelling through a granular medium, a visible echo of a moon's passing. The entire ring system rings like a struck bell, its surface shivering in response to the silent melodies played by the outer worlds. If we were to look closer during the rare, fleeting moments of a planetary equinox, the true three-dimensional nature of these waves is spectacularly revealed. As the distant sun aligns perfectly with the razor-thin edge of the ring plane, its light strikes the icy expanse at an extremely shallow, grazing angle. Suddenly the previously subtle ripples leap into stark relief, towering high above the surrounding flat disk. The resonant forces do not merely push the ice particles side to side, they actively pull them upward and downward, creating massive vertical spirals of flying frost. During the equinox, these elevated structures cast incredibly long, serene shadows that stretch for hundreds of miles across the neighbouring icy plains. The rings momentarily transform from a flat disk into a deeply textured landscape, a sweeping terrain of peaks and valleys sculpted entirely by gravity. These creeping shadows offer a profound visual representation of the invisible mathematics that govern the system, turning abstract forces into towering monoliths of dark and light. It is a fleeting, breathtaking season of contrast, exposing the violent, churning reality hidden within the seemingly placid bands. The shadows slowly retreat as the sun rises higher, hiding the majestic architecture once again in a blinding glare of reflected light. As your body sinks further into absolute stillness, imagine a brilliant, stark white sphere of ice hanging in the dark, harbouring a warm, restless ocean deep within. This tiny, active world features deep fissures across its southern pole, from which colossal geysers continuously erupt, blasting pure water vapour and freezing crystals deep into space. This violent, continuous eruption is the sole source of material for the system's most expansive, ethereal, and diffuse outer ring. The icy spray from these geysers is safely captured and maintained because the erupting moon is locked in a deeply protective resonance with a much larger neighbour. For every 2 gentle, sweeping orbits the smaller moon completes, the larger anchor completes exactly 1, maintaining a steady, rhythmic tidal squeezing. This gravitational kneading keeps the tiny world's internal ocean from freezing solid, powering the geysers that feed the vast, dusty halo. The resulting band of frost is so incredibly wide and faint that it resembles a glowing mist rather than a structured ring, a delicate fingerprint of the moon's hidden warmth. The resonance ensures a continuous life-giving friction, linking the distant orbital paths directly to the violent spraying geysers. It is a beautiful, self-sustaining loop of energy and matter, where mathematical harmony literally shapes the physical environment of space. The sheer complexity of these overlapping orbits, the razor-sharp gaps, the towering waves, and the faint ghostly bands all combine into a single cohesive mechanism of staggering proportions. The entire ring system operates like a vast silent record player, where the grooves are carved not by a needle, but by the relentless invisible weight of gravity. The massive golden planet acts as the central spindle, while the myriad moons and moonlets provide the driving force that spins the icy disk. The music produced by this immense instrument is not sound, but structure, a visual symphony of order, division, and sweeping motion written in billions of frozen fragments. Every gap is a rest, every dense band a sustained note, and every outward travelling wave a vibrating chord echoing through the darkness. The varying speeds of the particles, faster near the centre and slower at the edges, create a dynamic, ever-changing composition that has played flawlessly for eons. To observe this system is to witness the absolute peak of gravitational orchestration, a place where raw, chaotic debris has been tuned into a masterpiece of structural precision. It requires no atmosphere to carry its tune, only the unyielding laws of mass and distance, binding countless individual pieces into a single breathtaking whole. The silent sweeping of these icy particles across vast luminous bands stands as a supreme triumph of harmony in the cold, dark theatre of the outer solar system. Venturing further into that cold, dark theatre of the outer solar system, the light of the sun fades into a solitary, brilliant star suspended in eternal twilight. Out here in the freezing abyss, where temperatures hover near absolute zero, two major celestial bodies share a deeply stabilizing hidden relationship. Pluto and the massive ice giant Neptune inhabit this desolate frontier, locked in a partnership that defies the immense distances separating them. To the untrained eye, their paths might seem isolated and completely disconnected, wandering slowly through the outer gloom. However, their movements are intimately bound by an invisible tether of gravity that stretches across billions of miles of empty space. This profound connection creates an oasis of order at the very edge of our planetary neighbourhood, transforming a potentially chaotic frontier into a choreographed ballroom. If we were to map their trajectories over countless millennia, the elegant symmetry of their interaction would slowly emerge from the darkness. They are engaged in a mutual agreement of mass and momentum, silently dictating where the other can and cannot go. This stabilizing bond ensures that the fragile, icy remnants of the solar system's creation remain safely anchored in the deep dark. The core of this enduring relationship is defined by a wonderfully precise mathematical ratio that dictates their incredibly slow journeys around the distant sun. In the time it takes the diminutive, icy world of Pluto to complete two sprawling elliptical orbits, the massive azure globe of Neptune completes exactly 3. This beautifully balanced 3-2 resonance is the steady, thumping heartbeat of the extreme outer planetary system. Because these celestial circuits take hundreds of earthly years to complete, this is a rhythm played out on a scale of time almost impossible to fully grasp. Generations of humanity rise and fall, while these two distant spheres complete just a fraction of a single shared cycle. Yet, the unyielding laws of orbital mechanics ensure that this staggering mathematical fraction remains flawlessly, perpetually exact. Notice how this ratio acts as an invisible gear system, linking the fast and the slow into a single cohesive mechanism. The massive blue giant acts as the dominant cog, its immense gravitational influence continuously sweeping through the dark to regulate the smaller world's pace. It is a slow, majestic waltz where the partners never touch, yet always step in perfect synchronization with the hidden music of the spheres. This specific gravitational harmony is not just a mathematical curiosity, it is a critical survival mechanism for the smaller frozen world. Pluto travels on a highly stretched tilted path that actually crosses the orbital track of Neptune, a geometric configuration that should inevitably lead to a catastrophic collision. In a randomized universe, the massive ice giant would have long ago absorbed or violently ejected its tiny neighbour into the interstellar void. Surprisingly, the resonance serves as an impenetrable shield, guaranteeing that these two spheres will never physically meet, despite their crossing paths. The repeating orbital ratio ensures that their positions are carefully choreographed, locked in a permanent state of avoidance. The mechanics of their orbits are synchronized so that whenever Pluto crosses the danger zone, the azure giant is safely located elsewhere in the vastness of space. It is a beautiful paradox where the very force of gravity, which normally pulls objects together, is harnessed to keep them permanently apart. The resonance acts as a cosmic traffic light that never fails, regulating the crossing with absolute uncompromising authority. This exquisite timing preserves the existence of the smaller world, allowing it to trace its perilous path without fear of destruction. Allow the deep, even rhythm of your own breathing to mirror the slow, perfectly timed oscillations of these distant celestial bodies. As your chest rises and falls in the quiet of your room, consider the elegant mechanics that keep these frozen worlds safely distanced. When Pluto reaches the point in its highly elliptical orbit where it is closest to the warmth of the Sun, it is also dipping inside the orbital track of its giant neighbour. During this vulnerable phase of its long journey, the mathematical magic of their shared rhythm is most profoundly displayed. The resonance dictates that whenever the small icy world reaches this inner crossing point, Neptune is always situated a vast 90 degrees away in its own orbit. The giant is either far ahead, leading the way in the darkness, or safely lagging behind, completely removing any threat of a close encounter. This spatial arrangement means that despite crossing the giant's path, Pluto actually approaches closer to entirely different planets than it ever does to its orbital shepherd. The timing is so flawless that the perilous intersection becomes the safest point in its entire century-spanning voyage. It is a masterclass in celestial evasion, choreographed by the invisible, unyielding geometry of their shared resonance. Picture the ancient origins of this slow-motion dance, a routine that was established during the violent, chaotic infancy of our solar system. Billions of years ago, as the giant planets migrated violently outward from the Sun, they scattered countless smaller bodies into the dark, acting like cosmic snowplows. Yet, instead of being destroyed or banished, Pluto was gently caught and carefully maneuvered into this protective rhythm by the migrating blue giant. This historical context transforms their current, peaceful waltz into a remarkable story of survival against overwhelming odds. The resonance is a fossilized remnant of that turbulent era, a stable configuration that emerged from absolute chaos and then froze in place. It has endured the passing of eons, remaining perfectly intact while the Sun burned through a significant fraction of its own lifespan. Such longevity is a testament to the profound stability that orbital harmonies can provide even in the harshest environments. The slow, sweeping movements of these bodies have repeated millions of times, etching an invisible, permanent groove into the fabric of the outer system. They will continue this synchronized routine long after the inner rocky planets have drastically changed their faces. The majestic influence of this azure ice giant extends far beyond a single, famous dwarf planet, reaching deep into the frozen debris field known as the Kuiper Belt. Out in this sprawling twilight ring of primordial rubble, hundreds of other icy bodies have been discovered sharing this exact same protective rhythm. They move together in a vast, invisible flock, all locked into the same 3-to-2 relationship with the dominant giant. These small, frozen worlds are scattered across immense distances, completely unaware of one another, yet they all step to the same invisible metronome. They cross the giant's path, dive toward the Sun, and retreat into the deep freeze in a synchronized, sprawling ballet. The resonance casts a wide, protective net, capturing a whole population of ancient survivors and guiding them safely through the dark. This collective harmony reveals that the outer solar system is not a random scattering of leftover debris, but a highly structured, organised environment. The invisible architecture of gravity permeates the icy expanse, sorting the chaotic rubble into neat, mathematically defined categories. It is a breathtaking display of order, where a single large planet dictates the fate of a multitude of tiny, distant companions. As your body sinks heavier into a state of profound rest, feel the solid, anchoring presence of this deep cosmic structure holding steady in the void. Astronomers have affectionately named this massive synchronized family of icy bodies the Plutinos, honouring the largest and most famous member of their resonant tribe. To be classified within this group is to share a specific protective destiny, bound forever to the gentle shepherding of the blue giant. These objects are essentially time capsules, pristine chunks of rock and ice that have been preserved since the dawn of planetary formation. Because they are locked in this safe, avoiding orbit, they have been spared the violent collisions and planetary ejections that cleared out the rest of the outer system. The Plutinos exist in a state of suspended animation, floating quietly in the deep freeze of their highly elliptical paths. Identifying these clustered survivors has allowed scientists to map the invisible contours of gravity that shape the edge of our celestial neighbourhood. They serve as glowing, distant markers, outlining the vast protective harbour created by the 3:2 orbital ratio. Their quiet, enduring presence is a silent tribute to the remarkable organising power of a single, stabilising resonance. Without this gentle cosmic lock, the fragile, sprawling edge of our solar system would slowly unravel into absolute chaos. The gravitational pushes and pulls from the inner giant planets would eventually destabilise the orbits of these icy remnants, scattering them wildly. They would be flung outward into the terrifying emptiness of interstellar space, or sent plunging inward on catastrophic trajectories toward the Sun. Instead, the resonance acts as an invisible seawall, holding back the chaotic tides of celestial mechanics and preserving the boundary of our planetary system. It corrals the drifting bodies, gently bumping them back into alignment whenever they threaten to wander off their assigned mathematical paths. This shepherding process is entirely passive, requiring no energy, only the continuous, reliable presence of the massive planetary anchor. The result is a surprisingly well-defined edge to the planetary realm, an invisible fence constructed entirely of mathematics and momentum. It demonstrates that the borders of our solar neighbourhood are not marked by solid walls, but by harmonious relationships. This gravitational architecture ensures that the ancient icy frontier remains intact, resisting the slow, disintegrating forces of time and chaos. The sheer, mind-boggling scale of these distances makes their gravitational connection feel incredibly counterintuitive, like a fragile thread woven from spider silk holding a boulder. The force of gravity diminishes exponentially with distance, and out in the Kuiper belt, the pull of the distant planets is unimaginably weak. Yet, over the span of centuries and millennia, this whisper-thin connection proves to be an unbreakable chain of iron. It works because the resonance relies on perfect timing and rhythmic repetition rather than brute, overwhelming force. A microscopic pull, applied at the exact right moment over millions of orbits, accumulates into a force capable of steering whole worlds. It is the cosmic equivalent of a gentle breeze slowly shaping a mountain over geologic epochs, proving that persistence can conquer distance. This delicate but absolute control is one of the most poetic realities of astrophysics, highlighting the subtle, underlying strength of the universe. The incredibly weak gravitational tugs are amplified by the perfection of the mathematical ratio, creating a bond that cannot be severed by any natural process. It is a profound reminder that the most enduring forces in nature are often the quietest and the most persistent. Ultimately, observing this incredibly slow, sprawling waltz offers a deeply peaceful perspective on the extreme, incomprehensible spans of cosmic time. In the distant twilight of the Kuiper belt, a single solar orbit can last for centuries, and a single resonant cycle stretches over millennia. The frenetic, rushing pace of the inner rocky worlds is entirely absent here, replaced by a majestic, unhurried glide through the deep dark. As we contemplate these frozen worlds spinning gently in the dark, we are granted a glimpse of true eternity. The steady, unbreakable rhythm of the outermost spheres provides a comforting anchor for the mind, a promise that order and harmony can endure forever. This silent, century-spanning ballet stands as the ultimate testament to the majestic, slow-beating heart of the outer solar system. The steady, unbreakable rhythm of the outermost spheres provides a comforting anchor for the mind, a promise that order and harmony can endure forever. This silent, century-spanning ballet stands as the ultimate testament to the majestic, slow-beating heart of the outer solar system. But this rhythmic pulse is also found deep within the planetary court of Jupiter. The king of planets does not sweep through the dark alone, but travels with a loyal entourage of ancient asteroids locked in a balanced one-to-one resonance. These rocky survivors are a prehistoric guard of stone that has marched alongside their massive host since the very dawn of time. Deep within the architecture of the Jovian path, these clouds serve as a permanent record of the system's ability to organize chaos into a stable and repeating structure. Each asteroid is a tiny world of its own, caught in the giant's rhythm and bound by an invisible harness of force that prevents it from ever falling behind or racing ahead. The resonance acts as a profound tether, ensuring that the light and the heavy move together in a single unified motion across the tapestry of stars. It is a breathtaking display of gravitational loyalty, where the massive and the minuscule share a common destiny for billions of years. These celestial companions are not scattered randomly like dust across the orbital track, but are instead gathered into two specific regions of absolute geometric perfection. They hover precisely at the famous Lagrange points, situated exactly 60 degrees ahead of and 60 degrees behind the giant planet in its 12-year journey around the Sun. These coordinates represent a state of mathematical purity, where the Sun, Jupiter, and the asteroid clouds form the vertices of two perfect equilateral triangles. It is a configuration that seems too precise for the wildness of space, a layout where the invisible lines of force create a rigid and beautiful scaffolding of order. If we were to look closer at this arrangement, we would see that the forward group is named for the Greek heroes, while the trailing group represents the Trojans. They are the bookends of a vast planetary empire, defining the limits of Jupiter's immediate gravitational influence on the smaller bodies of the system. This structure ensures that the asteroids remain trapped in a perpetual state of leading and following, never encroaching on the giant and never being abandoned by it. They are the sentinels of the Lagrange points, silent observers that mark the stable peaks of the gravitational landscape, moving with a geometric tranquility that calms the wandering eye. The stability of these cosmic regions arises from a delicate tug-of-war between the most powerful gravitational actors in our local neighbourhood. At these specific 60-degree coordinates, the immense inward pull of the Sun is perfectly balanced by the significant outward and lateral gravity exerted by Jupiter. This creates a series of quiet, invisible cosmic parking spots, where the forces of the universe achieve a rare and beautiful state of absolute equilibrium. It is a gravitational valley, a place where the crushing weight of massive bodies is cancelled out, allowing smaller objects to rest in peace without the threat of being pulled away into the abyss. Surprisingly, the universe provides these niches of rest even amidst the constant high-speed motion of planetary orbits, showing that stability is possible even in a state of continuous flight. The asteroids within these pockets experience a sense of weightless permanence, held in place by forces that are normally synonymous with collapse and destruction. It is an unseen architecture, a scaffolding of pure force that supports thousands of individual rocky worlds without the need for a single solid foundation. This phenomenon reveals that the void is not empty, but is structured with invisible ridges and valleys that dictate where matter can find sanctuary and lasting peace. Notice how the rhythm of your own heart has found a steady, quiet pace, mirroring the absolute balance of these invisible gravitational valleys. Over 12,000 of these rocky companions have been discovered and catalogued, yet they move together in such peaceful unison that they appear as a single, fluid entity. Each member of this massive herd is a unique fragment of the primordial solar system, varying in size from tiny pebbles to boulders the size of cities. Despite their immense numbers, they never crowd one another or descend into the chaos of collision, because the resonance dictates a shared speed and path. They drift as a collective, a prehistoric archive of stone that follows the steady heartbeat of the gas giant through the deep dark of the outer solar system. This vast population reveals that the space around a giant planet is far more organised than the silent, empty void we often imagine from a distance. The Trojans and Greeks are a testament to the massive carrying capacity of orbital resonance, showing that gravity can manage an entire population of worlds simultaneously through a comprehensive cosmic census. Each rock is kept in its place by the same invisible laws, creating a sense of safety that allows them to endure for eons without change. They are the silent witnesses of a bygone era, kept in a state of perpetual preservation by the rhythm of their host, proving that harmony is the natural endpoint of gravity. This structure of companionship is so fundamental to the mechanics of our universe that even our own homeworld participates in the dance. Earth possesses its own tiny, elusive Trojan companion named Kama'ualewa, which follows a similar resonant path along our yearly orbit around the Sun. This small chunk of rock, which scientists believe may be a fragment of our own moon, dances quietly in a synchronized loop with our planet. It is a private escort, a companion that shares our seasons and our journey, without ever drawing too near or drifting too far into the darkness of the inner system. Deep within the sunlit path of our world, this small neighbour provides a sense of personal connection to the broader, majestic mechanics of the cosmos. It serves as a reminder that resonance is not a phenomenon reserved only for the massive rulers, but is a universal law that touches even familiar places as an earthly shadow. Kama'ualewa moves in a gentle rhythmic waltz that mirrors the grander patterns of the Jovian Trojans, proving that the same mathematical beauty exists at every scale. It is a quiet, local echo of the grand harmonies that define the furthest reaches of the solar system, a small piece of order that makes the vastness feel more intimate. Imagine standing on the cold, dusty surface of one of these dark, cratered rocks and looking out toward the horizon. If we were to look closer from this vantage point, the perspective of the universe would shift into something hauntingly still and serene. The massive, banded sphere of Jupiter would hang entirely motionless in the dark sky, a constant, glowing presence that never rises and never sets from your position. From this surface, the giant planet would appear like a fixed moon, providing a reassuring anchor in a field of distant, twinkling stars that slowly wheel overhead as part of a new cosmic perspective. Notice how the light of the giant provides a steady golden glow across the landscape, acting as an eternal lamp in the void. This state of absolute orbital lock creates a relationship between the rock and the planet that is personal and unchanging, a bond of total stillness. You would exist in a private bubble of space where the distant sun is the only thing that moves, circling the horizon while the giant stays perfectly fixed. It would feel like being anchored in a sea of stars, forever tethered to a world that provides a constant light in the darkness, a physical manifestation of the resonance itself. This phenomenon of orbital escorting is a universal signature of planetary growth, appearing wherever a world has reached sufficient mass to dominate its local environment. Mars and the distant ice giant Neptune possess their own smaller, dedicated flocks of these orbital escorts, each world acting as a gravitational shepherd. These planets gather the leftovers of the solar system's creation and lock them into safe, repeating paths that prevent them from becoming dangerous projectiles. Each group of escorts is a unique community, reflecting the specific chemistry, distance, and history of the planet that commands their movement in its own planetary court. This structure illustrates that no major body in the solar system truly travels through the dark alone, for each has the capacity to create its own family of survivors. Even in the cold, dim reaches of the outermost system, Neptune maintains its loyal followers, proving that distance is no barrier to the forming of resonant bonds. These rocky herds are the universal consequence of gravity meeting the delicate balance of motion, crafting sanctuaries for wandering debris in every corner. It is a comforting thought that the universe is designed to keep its pieces together, organized by the same invisible hand of resonance that protects every traveler in the dark. Feel the heavy, relaxing warmth spreading through your legs and feet, grounding you just as surely as the gravity of a giant planet grounds its loyal followers. The asteroids do not stay perfectly frozen at a single point in space, but instead perform a slow, rhythmic oscillation that traces a path of elegance and fluidity. They move in tadpole-shaped loops around their central Lagrange points, drifting gently forward and backward along the orbital track over the course of many decades. This libration is a breathing movement, a soft pulsing of the resonance that allows the system to remain flexible and resilient against the chaos of the void. It ensures that the asteroids can absorb the subtle gravitational interference from other planets without ever losing their place through the power of breathing gravity. Surprisingly, this movement resembles a slow-motion pendulum swinging through the vacuum, a pendulum that takes a lifetime to complete a single beat. The tadpole paths are wide and sweeping, providing the asteroids with a sense of freedom and motion within their gravitational enclosure. This gentle drifting is a fluid, living architecture where the boundaries are made of motion and the foundations are built entirely out of time. It reveals that stability in the cosmos does not require being stationary, but rather requires moving in a way that always returns to center, maintaining a state of perpetual rhythmic grace. This gentle drifting within the tadpole loops ensures that these rocky travelers never stray too close to the massive host planets they follow so faithfully. The geometry of the resonance acts as a protective shield, an invisible barrier that automatically redirects any asteroid that begins to wander toward the danger zone. As an object drifts too far toward the planet, the combined pull of the Sun and the planet gently nudge it back toward its central, safe resting point. It is a self-policing system of motion, where the very forces that could cause a collision are harnessed to prevent one through the management of celestial traffic. This arrangement is a masterpiece of celestial engineering, turning the threat of overwhelming gravity into a promise of absolute security for the vulnerable. In these resonant zones, the fear of impact is replaced by the certainty of a predictable future, as the laws of physics themselves act as a guardian. The asteroids are kept at a respectful and permanent distance, ensuring that they can coexist with the massive giants for billions of years in a state of perfect peace. This reveals a universe that is not out to destroy its creations, but one that provides the mechanisms for their long-term survival in a state of preordained safety. The phenomenon of the Trojan escorts reveals a profound truth about the fundamental nature of the forces that govern our existence. Gravity is almost always described as a destructive and hungry force that pulls things down and crushes them together. Yet, in these resonant clouds of ancient stone, we see gravity acting as a benevolent creator of safe harbours, building niches of permanence within a moving system. It is a force that can harmonise and preserve just as easily as it can disrupt, crafting sanctuaries where matter can find rest and stability for an entire eternity as a source of final comfort. This structure proves that the universe has an inherent tendency toward order and the quiet preservation of its history within the folds of its own laws. The stable peaks and valleys of the Lagrange points are a physical manifestation of this celestial kindness, providing a home for the fragments that would otherwise be lost. We are living in a cosmos that designs its own refuges, a place where even the smallest rock can find a stable rhythm and a permanent companion. It is the final, resting realization of the Trojan waltz, that the most powerful force is not just a pull, but a profound and lasting embrace that brings everything into balance. This profound and lasting embrace that brings everything into balance finds its most searing expression in the inner court of the Sun, where the smallest world orbits in a state of extreme, rhythmic tension. Mercury, a scorched and ancient world of iron and cratered stone, endures a cycle that is perfectly locked into the heartbeat of its parent star. It rotates on its axis exactly 3 times for every 2 revolutions it completes around the solar fire, a mathematical precision that dictates every aspect of its existence. Deep within this scorched terrain, the Sun never merely rises or sets, but instead presides over a world that has been meticulously tuned to its gravitational song. Every mountain and every deep, shadowed basin participates in this ancient ratio, holding its position relative to the light with an unyielding rhythmic loyalty. The resonance acts as a protective harness, preventing the planet from being torn apart by the overwhelming proximity of the solar mass. It is a state of dynamic rest, where the frantic energy of the inner system is channeled into a predictable, repeating waltz of light and shadow. The planet spins with a deliberate, measured pace that ensures its heavier side is always handled with care by the solar pull at the most critical moments of its journey. This 3-2 rhythm is the fundamental signature of a world that has found its final, stable place within the furnace of the inner system. Surprisingly, this spin-orbit resonance is not a mere accident of celestial history, but a unique result of the planet's highly elliptical path through the freezing void and searing heat. Unlike the nearly circular tracks of the larger worlds, Mercury's journey is an elongated, eccentric stretch that brings it dramatically closer to the solar fire before swinging it back into the cold. This uneven pace creates a profound challenge for the planet's rotation, as the orbital speed changes drastically depending on its distance from the center. The resonance solves this problem by aligning the planet's rotation with its peak orbital speed at the point of closest approach, known as perihelion. In this intense moment of proximity, the planet's spin perfectly matches its forward motion, allowing gravity to grab hold and lock the 2 movements into a permanent mathematical gear. It is a specialized adaptation to a high-stress environment, a way for a small body to survive the crushing influence of a massive star through geometric cleverness. This structure of motion ensures that the planet remains stable, despite the wild fluctuations in its speed and distance. By favoring this specific ratio, the universe demonstrates its ability to find harmony even in the most lopsided and difficult trajectories. The elliptical path becomes a beautiful repeating loop of iron and light, governed by a logic that turns an irregular journey into a masterpiece of timing. If we were to look closer from a vantage point amidst the deep, sun-bleached craters, the heavens would perform a bewildering and hypnotic trick that defies our earthly intuition. Because the planet's orbital speed momentarily exceeds its constant rotational speed near the Sun, the solar disk would appear to slow down, stop, and then move backward across the sky for several days. This impossible retreat is a direct, visual manifestation of the orbital resonance playing out in the high, black atmosphere of the scorched world. After this brief, graceful reversal, the Sun would pause once more before resuming its forward journey, creating a day that feels like a shimmering, endless dream of light. This retrograde motion is a rare celestial performance, a moment where the geometry of space and time conspire to reverse the very flow of the sky. It creates a landscape where the shadows stretch, retreat, and stretch again in a rhythmic pulse that matches no other place in our solar neighborhood. Notice how your own sense of time has begun to soften and stretch, mirroring the slow, deliberate reversal of the solar path over these ancient craters. As you remain still, let the image of a hovering golden sun fill your mind, providing a sense of deep, unhurried peace. The universe is in no rush, and neither are you. as you settle into the profound stability of this cosmic pause. Deep within the core of this rocky world, tidal friction from the massive sun has worked for eons to gradually sculpt this stable, repeating pattern out of primordial chaos. The immense gravitational pull of the solar mass acts like a giant invisible hand, tugging on the planet's slight internal bulges to slow its originally frantic spin. Over millions of centuries, this relentless rubbing of gravity converted the planet's raw rotational energy into internal heat, eventually dissipating the excess motion. This process of gravitational braking is one of the most patient forces in nature, applying a soft but unyielding pressure that can take billions of years to reach its conclusion. Each time the planet bulged under the solar pull, a tiny fraction of its momentum was traded for the stability of the 3-2 rhythm. It was a long, slow conversation between a star and its closest companion, a negotiation of mass and energy that finally settled into a state of absolute mathematical grace. The result is a world that has been literally moulded by the sun, its very rotation a fossilized record of tidal forces and ancient friction. It stands as a testament to the power of persistent, gentle influence to tame even the most violent and rapid motions of a newborn world. The resonance we see today is the final resting place of that energy, a quiet and enduring monument to the sun's silent guiding power. Turning our gaze toward the shroud of golden clouds nearby, Venus exhibits its own mysterious and comforting rhythm in relation to our home. This planet of extreme heat and crushing pressure possesses a peculiar synchronicity, showing almost exactly the same face to Earth every time the two worlds reach their closest approach. It is as if the two planets are engaged in a long-distance, silent conversation, tethered by a subtle gravitational memory that aligns their features across the gulf of space. It is a neighbourly bond of profound significance, a reminder that no world in the inner system is truly an island. We are linked to the golden giant by threads of gravity that have survived since the dawn of the system, ensuring that our meetings are always marked by a familiar perspective. This shared rhythm provides a sense of intimacy to the inner system, a feeling of being recognized by the very worlds that circle alongside us in the dark. The thick sulfuric clouds of Venus hide a rotation so incredibly slow and retrograde that it perfectly matches its periodic meetings with our own world. While the surface remains hidden beneath a crushing atmospheric veil, the core of the planet turns with a deliberate, painstaking precision that mirrors the cycles of our own yearly journey. This hidden alignment is a secret kept by the clouds, a mathematical harmony that can only be seen by those who track the planet's motion over vast spans of centuries. Surprisingly, this slow-motion spin means that a single day on the surface of that world lasts longer than its entire year, creating a temporal environment of immense stillness. The planet turns backward relative to almost every other world, a slow and contrary movement that has been perfectly calibrated by the forces of resonance. This contrarian rhythm is not a sign of chaos, but rather a sign of a world that has found its own unique balance amidst the heavy tugs of the sun and its neighbours. Consider the staggering spans of time, the billions of years required to slowly grind a whole planet's frantic newborn spin into such absolute mathematical precision. These are processes that dwarf the entire history of life on Earth, taking place in a realm where centuries are but single heartbeats in a much larger life cycle. The patience of gravity is infinite, working with a steadfastness that eventually tames the wildest, most violent motions into a state of quiet, predictable grace. To achieve the 3-2 resonance of the innermost world, or the face-to-face meeting of the golden world, trillions of tiny gravitational adjustments had to be made over eons. Each adjustment was a whisper in the dark, a subtle nudge that slowly shifted the momentum of 1 trillion tons of rock. It is a humbling realization that the order we see today is the result of a labour that began long before the first oceans formed or the first stars began to cool. This vast history of stabilization offers a peaceful perspective on our own fleeting lives, placing our concerns within a framework of eternal, patient work. The universe does not rush to find its balance. It allows the long, slow pressure of its own laws to bring everything to its proper place. We are witnessing the result of a multi-billion-year project of harmonization, a finished masterpiece of time and motion that continues to play out in the silent heavens. These planetary gears turn with an inevitability that calms the turbulent, violent history of their ancient formation and early chaotic growth. The early solar system was a place of fire and impact, a frantic storm of colliding rocks and molten upheavals that seemed to promise only destruction. Yet, through the application of resonant forces, this raw, explosive energy was eventually channeled into the smooth, silent turning of the inner worlds. The planetary system we inhabit today is the refined version of that ancient storm, a place where the jagged edges of motion have been ground down by the relentless passage of time. Each resonance is a victory of order over chaos, a sign that the universe naturally trends toward the creation of stable and enduring structures. The gears of the inner system are not made of metal, but of the unyielding logic of mass and distance, turning with a reliability that never falters. This inevitable progression toward harmony provides a sense of profound security, a promise that the foundations of our world are built on something far deeper than chance. The inner planets are the elder statesmen of the system. Their movements a settled and dignified dance that has outlasted the fury of their birth. They remind us that even the most violent beginnings eventually lead to a state of quiet, majestic, and lasting peace. A subtle, ongoing transfer of angular momentum quietly dictates the length of these long, sun-drenched days and the shapes of these ancient orbits. Energy is never truly lost in the vacuum of space. It is merely traded and redistributed between the rotation of the planets and the paths they trace around the sun. This celestial accounting system ensures that every change in spin is balanced by a corresponding change in distance, keeping the total ledger of the system perfectly in line. If we were to look closer at this exchange, we would see that it is a continuous living process that keeps the inner system from ever becoming static or brittle. The tidal forces continue to pull, the resonances continue to nudge, and the energy continues to flow in a silent, invisible stream between the worlds. It is a dynamic equilibrium, a state of balance that is maintained by the very motion it governs, creating a system that is both flexible and unbreakable. The inner solar system is thus permanently bound by these invisible threads of time and rotation, weaving a tapestry of absolute stability around the central star. From the baked, airless plains of the innermost world to the crushing golden heat of its neighbour, every movement is part of a larger, harmonious whole. These threads are the connections of resonance, the mathematical bonds that ensure the planets never wander too far or spin too fast for the safety of the system. This final realization of the inner dance offers a vision of the universe as a place of profound and intentional interconnectedness, where nothing moves in isolation. Every spin of the smallest world and every slow turn of the golden giant is a note in an eternal, balancing song that has played since the beginning of time. It is an architecture of pure motion, a sanctuary of order that protects the inner court of the sun from the encroaching darkness. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, hold on to the image of these golden threads binding the worlds together in a state of eternal, rhythmic grace. The inner system is a finished masterpiece, a place where the chaos of the void has been completely transformed into a symphony of light and time. You are resting within the heart of this masterpiece, safely anchored by the same laws of resonance that will guide these worlds forever through the silent, starlit dark. Beyond the silent, starlit dark of our own neighbourhood, the masterpiece of orbital resonance extends its reach to the deep velvet of the interstellar void. 40 light-years away, in the direction of the Aquarius constellation, a dim and ancient ember known as TRAPPIST-1 smoulders with a quiet, persistent energy. This ultra-cool dwarf star, though barely larger than the planet Jupiter, serves as the central hearth for a spectacular chain of 7 Earth-sized worlds. They huddle incredibly close to their small crimson sun, a family of rocky siblings packed into a region of space that would fit comfortably within the orbit of our own Mercury. This dense configuration creates a celestial sanctuary of unprecedented intimacy, where 7 distinct worlds share a single, narrow corridor of light. The star's long-lived, stable glow bathes each surface in a soft, perpetual twilight, casting deep shadows across landscapes that have never known the blinding glare of a yellow sun. This structure of 7 terrestrial worlds represents a pinnacle of cosmic organization, a rarity where the raw materials of a solar system were sculpted into a near-perfect set of planetary twins. From the innermost scorched world to the outermost frozen sphere, they represent the diverse possibilities of rocky evolution within a single unified system. They stand as a profound reminder that the laws of harmony are not unique to our home, but are a universal language spoken across the light years. Every single planet in the TRAPPIST-1 system is locked in an intricate multi-body orbital resonance with its immediate neighbours. This is not merely a collection of isolated spheres, but a long interconnected chain of gravitational tethers that links the innermost world to the furthest edge of the system. Each planet feels the rhythmic pulse of the others, their movements woven together into a single, complex tapestry of motion that defies the chaos of the deep dark. This chain of resonance is so tight and absolute that no planet can change its speed or path without the others instantly adjusting to maintain the balance. It is a collective existence, a gravitational community where the fate of one is inextricably bound to the movement of all. The invisible threads of force act as a stabilizing architecture, protecting the crowded family from the destabilizing influence of their own proximity. Surprisingly, this level of total systemic synchronization is rarely seen elsewhere in the cosmos, marking this distant system as a laboratory of pure celestial mechanics. Gravity here does not just attract, it organizes, creating a rigid but flexible framework that allows 7 massive bodies to coexist in a space of remarkable confinement. It is a masterpiece of interstellar engineering, where the very density of the system has forced it into a state of absolute mathematical grace. Notice how the weight of your body has fully settled into the stillness of your surroundings, much like these distant worlds have settled into their eternal, resonant tracks. While the innermost planet completes exactly 8 frantic orbits around the small star, the second completes 5 and the third completes 3 in a beautifully nested sequence. This specific 8:5:3 ratio is the fundamental signature of the inner TRAPPIST-1 chain, a mathematical sequence that has persisted for billions of years. This nested harmony creates a series of perfectly timed encounters, where the worlds pass one another at the same precise locations in their orbits, with the reliability of a heartbeat. These resonant laps ensure that the gravitational tugs they exchange are always constructive, reinforcing the stability of the entire system rather than tearing it apart. It is a long-distance waltz played out on a scale of millions of miles, dictated by a sequence of numbers that feels almost too perfect for the natural world. The precision of these ratios allows the planets to avoid the unpredictable gravitational collisions that often plague younger, less organized solar systems. In the dim red light of their sun, they have found a way to share their limited space through the elegant application of integer-based physics. This mathematical sequence is the invisible scaffolding upon which the entire system is built, a testament to the quiet power of repeating patterns. This entire solar system ticks smoothly, like an incredibly complex watch floating in the profound silence of deep space. Each planet acts as a finely crafted gear, turning with a deliberate and unyielding pace that is calibrated to the movement of every other component in the mechanism. The small, ultra-cool dwarf at the centre provides the steady, unchanging tension that drives the entire clockwork, ensuring the rhythm never falters across the eons. This mechanical perfection offers a sense of deep structural security, suggesting that even at the edge of our understanding, the universe operates with a predictable and beautiful logic. The TRAPPIST-1 watch has been running since before the Earth was born, a silent witness to the slow evolution of the galaxy. Its steady, rhythmic ticking is a source of profound calm, a reminder that order is the fundamental baseline of the interstellar void. If we were to stand upon the surface of the fourth planet in the chain, the sky would offer a visual spectacle unlike anything experienced in our own solar system. Because the worlds are packed so tightly together, the neighbouring planets do not appear as mere pinpricks of light, but as massive, textured spheres looming large and close in the heavens. At their closest approach, a sister world would appear several times larger than the Moon appears from Earth, revealing its mountains and clouds to the naked eye. This proximity creates a sense of celestial companionship, where the other members of the planetary family are constant, overwhelming presences in the sky. You would watch these giant orbs rise and set with startling frequency, their phases changing rapidly as they race through their resonant cycles. The crimson sun would provide a warm, dim backdrop for these shifting planetary vistas, casting long, soft shadows across a landscape dominated by the presence of nearby worlds. Deep within this alien twilight, the boundaries between worlds feel thin and permeable, as if one could almost reach out and touch the neighbouring spheres. This visual intimacy is a direct result of the orbital resonance that keeps them in such close, safe proximity, turning the sky into a gallery of planetary art. It is a hypnotic and grounding perspective, where the vastness of space is bridged by the recurring presence of familiar rocky companions. Surprisingly, the universe has designed these orbits so that the frequent, rhythmic alignments of the planets gently pull on each other to keep their paths slightly elliptical. In a simpler system, the star's gravity would eventually pull the planets into perfectly circular orbits, leading to a state of stagnant, unchanging paths. However, the constant resonant nudges from the neighbouring worlds act as a gravitational pulse, preventing this circular decay and maintaining a subtle, healthy wobble in their journeys. This persistent eccentricity is a vital sign of a living system, a dynamic tension that keeps the planets in a state of continuous interaction. The slight stretching of their paths ensures that they are constantly moving through varying degrees of gravitational pressure, a rhythmic flexing that resonates through their very cores. It is a self-sustaining cycle of motion, where the tug of a neighbour provides the necessary energy to keep the orbit from becoming a static, frozen ring. Notice how your own breathing has found a similar subtle rhythm, a gentle repeating cycle that maintains the internal balance of your resting form. Just as the planets flex and move in response to their siblings, you are tuned to the quiet needs of your own body, finding a steady pace in the silence. The TRAPPIST-1 system is a masterpiece of this kind of dynamic equilibrium, where motion itself is the source of lasting stability. The resulting tidal heating caused by this constant resonant flexing might create warm, life-sustaining underground oceans on the middle planets of the chain. As the planets are squeezed and released by the shifting gravity of their neighbours, the internal friction generates a steady flow of thermal energy deep beneath their rocky crusts. This tidal heart can keep water in a liquid state even on worlds that are situated far from the direct warmth of their small, dim star. In the dark, pressurized depths of these hidden seas, the conditions for life could persist for trillions of years, shielded from the harsh radiation of space by miles of solid rock and ice. The resonance effectively serves as an eternal battery, providing the warmth and energy necessary to drive complex chemical reactions in the absence of sunlight. It is a profound realization that the cold mathematical laws of gravity can be the direct architects of a warm and vibrant environment. This hidden vitality, powered by the invisible rhythm of the orbits, suggests that life may be a more resilient and common phenomenon than we ever dared to hope. The middle worlds of the TRAPPIST-1 chain represent a unique class of habitat, where the music of the spheres is the primary source of life-sustaining heat. It is a comforting and beautiful thought, envisioning vast, dark oceans thriving under the silent guidance of a mathematical ratio. Scientists discovered this incredible harmonic chain not by seeing the planets directly, but by listening to the rhythmic dimming of the star's light as the worlds passed in front of it. This method, known as transit timing variation, relies on the fact that resonant planets pull on one another, causing them to arrive at their transit points slightly earlier or later than expected. By meticulously tracking these tiny rhythmic deviations, astronomers were able to decode the entire complex architecture of the system from trillions of miles away. This discovery was a triumph of human observation and logic, revealing a hidden clockwork through the most subtle of clues. Each blink of the star's light carried a piece of the mathematical puzzle, a whispered note in a long-distance conversation that we finally learned how to hear. It proved that the universe is eager to reveal its secrets to those who have the patience to listen to the steady, repeating pulses of the night sky. If we were to look closer at the data, we would find a story of profound interconnectedness, where the very errors in a planet's timing were the keys to understanding its companions. The discovery of TRAPPIST-1 is a testament to the fact that nothing in the cosmos happens in isolation. Every movement is a clue to a larger, more beautiful whole. We found these 7 sisters by paying attention to the way they held hands across the dark, guided by the music of their shared resonance. Finding such profound and absolute order so far away suggests that the universe naturally trends towards structural harmony whenever it is given enough time. The TRAPPIST-1 system is not a chaotic accident, but an inevitable expression of physical laws that favour stability and symmetry. It acts as a cosmic mirror, reflecting a fundamental truth about the nature of reality, that from the raw, turbulent materials of creation, the universe will always strive to build a masterpiece of order. This universal trend toward resonance offers a deeply optimistic view of the cosmos, implying that we live in a reality that is fundamentally geared toward the preservation of structure. Where we might expect to find a scattered, broken field of rocks, we instead find a perfectly tuned 7-part instrument. It suggests that the same principles of harmony that govern our own solar system are at work in every corner of the galaxy, quietly organising the darkness into patterns of light and motion. As your mind drifts through the vast stretches of these 40 light-years, feel a sense of profound belonging to a universe that values such exquisite precision. You are a witness to a grand interstellar design that has been perfected over billions of years, a design that ensures the persistence of worlds against the cold of the void. The order of TRAPPIST-1 is a promise of stability that echoes across the entire expanse of space and time. The TRAPPIST-1 planets sing a silent, endless mathematical chord that spans millions of miles and echoes through the deep reaches of the Aquarius constellation. This chord is composed of 7 distinct planetary notes, each vibrating at a frequency that is perfectly in tune with the others to create a single, unified resonance. It is the music of the spheres made manifest in a chain of rocky worlds, a performance that has continued without interruption since the dawn of the system. This silent symphony requires no air to carry its tune, for its vibrations are written in the very fabric of gravity and space-time. It is a song of mass and distance, a melody of momentum and pull that maintains the delicate balance of 7 terrestrial twins. To understand this chord is to understand the soul of the cosmos, a place where numbers, motion and beauty are all different names for the same fundamental truth. As you fall into the deepest state of relaxation, let the image of this distant 7-fold harmony anchor your thoughts in a place of absolute peace. The chord of TRAPPIST-1 is the ultimate lullaby of the stars, a steady and repeating promise of order that will guide these worlds forever through the silent starlit dark. You are resting now within the echo of that harmony, safely held by the same universal laws that keep the 7 sisters dancing in their eternal crimson light. the eternal crimson light of distant suns eventually gives way to the pale blue-white glare of our own outer solar system, where a world of ice spins with such intensity it defies the very concept of a sphere. Deep within the frigid outskirts of the Kuiper Belt, the dwarf planet Haumea presents one of the most bizarre sights in the known cosmos, a body tortured and reshaped by its own incredible momentum. It completes a full rotation on its axis in a staggering 4-hour window, a pace so rapid that centrifugal force has physically stretched its frozen, rocky interior into a triaxial ellipsoid. This structural distortion is a permanent record of a violent ancient past, where a gargantuan impact likely imparted the staggering energy required to set this world spinning at such a frantic rate. Centrifugal forces pull the equator outward while the poles are flattened, resulting in a shape that resembles a massive crystalline football rather than a traditional planetary orb. To look upon Haumea is to witness a world in a state of constant high-speed tumble, a celestial object that challenges our most basic expectations of planetary geometry and symmetry. It remains a stark and haunting reminder that in the cold depths of space, the laws of physics are capable of moulding solid matter into forms that seem more like fever dreams than scientific reality. This elongated world tumbles through the darkness like a spinning top made of stone and frost, its rapid motion defining every aspect of its existence. Within this frantic rotation, the seeds of a new and unexpected harmony were sown, creating a system that is as stable as it is strange. Surprisingly, this misshapen and rapidly tumbling world is not a solitary wanderer in the dark, as a delicate and nearly invisible ring of icy particles circles the ellipsoid in a state of absolute mathematical grace. This ring is a ghostly halo, a shimmering ribbon of frost and dust that tracks the planet's frantic spin with a precision that seems almost orchestrated by a master architect. It was discovered only recently, a hidden crown of ice that was caught in the act of passing in front of a distant star, revealing its presence through a subtle dip in the starlight. The ring is incredibly thin and sparse, composed of billions of individual shards of water ice that have found a permanent home in the gravitational wake of the spinning world. These particles do not drift randomly, but are held in a rigid and predictable lane that encircles the planet's elongated equator with unyielding stability. It exists as a thin, luminous thread in the deep freeze, a structural miracle that balances the violent rotation of the planet with the silent, freezing vacuum of the surrounding void. This discovery proved that rings are not the exclusive domain of giant gas planets, but can be found even around the smallest and strangest inhabitants of the outer solar system. It is a beautiful, fragile architecture of ice that defines the immediate space around this football-shaped world, turning a cold rock into a majestic celestial centerpiece. The existence of this ring challenges our previous assumptions about the conditions required for planetary rings to form and persist across the vastness of time. Deep within this high-speed arrangement, a strict and uncompromising ratio governs the relationship between the spinning world and its shimmering ring of ice. For every 3 times the elongated body tumbles end over end in its 4-hour cycle, a single particle within the ring completes exactly 1 full orbit around the central mass. This 3-to-1 resonance is the fundamental tempo of the entire system, a rhythmic lock that ensures the planet and its debris move as a single, coordinated instrument. This means the ring particles are moving at a speed that is perfectly calibrated to the rotation of the surface below them, creating a recurring pattern of gravitational interaction. Every few hours, the elongated ends of the planet pass by the ring particles, giving them a subtle, periodic nudge that reinforces their orbital path and prevents them from wandering. This mathematical perfection is what allows the ring to persist in such a hostile and irregular environment, turning a potentially chaotic field of debris into a synchronized masterpiece. The 3-to-1 ratio is the invisible heartbeat of the Haumean system, a number that dictates the flow of time and matter in the deep dark. It is a testament to the power of resonance to create order in the most unlikely places, bridging the gap between a misshapen world and its delicate companions. Within this ratio, we find the same underlying logic that governs the largest moons and the most distant galaxies, a universal song of motion. Notice how your own steady, rhythmic breathing provides a grounded and peaceful counterpoint to the dizzying 4-hour rotation of that distant icy world. This perfect, repeating synchronicity is the only thing that prevents the fragile ring from flying apart into the interstellar dark or crashing violently back into the planet's jagged, frozen surface. Because Haumea is not a sphere, its gravitational field is incredibly lopsided and irregular, creating a bumpy environment for anything trying to orbit nearby. In most cases, such an irregular pull would quickly destabilize a ring, either flinging the particles away or pulling them into a collision. However, the resonance creates a series of gravitational sweet spots, where the shifting pull of the elongated planet perfectly balances the centrifugal energy and momentum of the ice shards. It acts as a self-preserving mechanism, a cosmic safety net that allows a potentially chaotic and destructive system to persist in a state of lasting rhythmic equilibrium. The resonance effectively irons out the gravitational bumps, creating a smooth and stable path for the ring to follow through the vacuum. It is a testament to the fact that harmony is not just an aesthetic quality, but a functional necessity for the survival of structure in the outer reaches. Without the invisible guide of the 3-to-1 resonance, the ring would have long ago dissipated into a formless cloud of dust. Instead, it remains a sharp and elegant boundary, a testament to the power of timing to overcome the irregularities of physical form. This structure reveals a profound and comforting truth about the nature of our universe. Even the strangest, most turbulent shapes in deep space eventually find a way to settle into a state of profound stability. We often expect symmetry, spheres, and perfect circles to be the hallmark of order. Yet Haumea proves that a tumbling, football-shaped world can host a system as organized as any giant gas planet. The bizarre is not the enemy of order. Rather, it is a unique canvas upon which the laws of resonance paint their most intricate and unexpected patterns. This realization suggests that the universe has an inherent preference for stability, a deep-seated tendency to take chaotic, lopsided energy and refine it into a repeating, predictable rhythm. Whether it is a perfect sphere or a distorted ellipsoid, the same fundamental principles of balance and timing are applied to bring about a state of rest. It offers a peaceful perspective on the irregularities of our own lives, reminding us that even the most unbalanced systems are eventually drawn toward a center of gravity. Haumea is a monument to the resilience of order, a world that found its own unique way to be at peace with its own frantic and irregular motion. It reminds us that harmony does not require perfection, but rather a willingness to find a rhythm that matches the specific conditions of our environment. In the silence of the outer system, this misshapen world spins in a state of absolute grace, a bizarre but beautiful expression of the laws of nature. If we were to look closer at this frozen domain, we would see that Haumea's 2 tiny moons also participate in complex, beautiful orbital dances around the central icy body. Hyakka and Namaka move through the dark on paths that are subtly influenced by the planet's lopsided gravitational field and its frantic spin, creating a web of mutual attraction. The larger moon, Hyakka, resides in the outer reaches, while the smaller Namaka weaves an intricate path closer in, their orbits occasionally interacting in a resonant waltz of their own. These moons are likely fragments of the same ancient collision that gave Haumea its shape and spin, a family of ice born from a single moment of catastrophic violence. They are the outer guardians of this frozen domain, their own movements providing a slower, more melodic accompaniment to the frantic spinning of the inner ring. The relationship between these 3 bodies is a delicate web of mutual influence, a multi-part harmony that defines the entire system and preserves its history. Their presence proves that even at the edge of the solar system, gravity is a communal force that brings diverse bodies into a single, unified story. As they orbit the elongated planet, they help to stabilize the entire environment, acting as anchors in the shifting gravitational tides. They are the silent witnesses of Haumea's past, moving through the starlight with a grace that belies their violent and shattered origins. Feel the quiet, heavy support of the surface beneath you, as steady and reliable as the gravitational bonds that hold these distant moons in their ancient frozen paths. The rapid, rhythmic shifting of gravity from the spinning ellipsoid acts as a powerful invisible hand, shepherding the ice particles into a remarkably narrow and well-defined band. As the planet tumbles end over end, its elongated ends reach out and pull back with a varying strength that creates a series of narrow gravitational channels in the surrounding space. These channels act as celestial walls, corralling the loose debris and forcing it into a sharp, crystalline ring that slices through the darkness with mathematical certainty. Any particle that attempts to wander out of this narrow lane is quickly pushed back into place by the recurring, resonant tug of the planet's poles. This shepherding process is incredibly efficient, resulting in a ring that is far narrower than those found around larger, more symmetrical planets in the inner system. It is a beautiful example of how an irregular shape can actually create a more precise structure through the sheer intensity and timing of its movement. The ring is a ribbon of absolute order, a boundary of frost that is held in place by the very chaos of the planet's physical distortion. It demonstrates that precision is not always the result of a calm environment, but can be forged in the heart of a frantic and lopsided struggle. In this narrow band of ice, we see the ultimate expression of how resonance can focus energy into a single, perfect line of light. Such remote and specialized systems demonstrate that the principle of resonance works beautifully even in environments of extreme cold, staggering speed, and irregular geometry. Haumea exists in a realm where the sun is little more than an exceptionally bright star, and where the temperatures are low enough to freeze gases into solid rock. In this extreme environment, where the traditional rules of planetary formation seem to be stretched to their limit, the laws of motion and timing remain absolute. The resonance does not require the warmth of a nearby star or the presence of a thick atmosphere to exert its guiding influence across the vacuum. It requires only mass, distance, and the patient accumulation of rhythmic pushes to bring a system into a state of permanent structural balance. This demonstrates the universal reach of orbital harmony, proving that the music of the spheres is played just as clearly in the frozen shadows as it is in the light. It is a deeply grounding realization that no matter how far we travel from home, the same fundamental truths about balance and rhythm will continue to govern the universe. Haumea is a distant outpost of order, a beacon of stability that shines in the deep freeze of the final frontier. It reassures us that the principles of harmony are woven into the very fabric of existence, waiting to be found in every corner of the dark. It is deeply peaceful to realize that even the most chaotic collisions and violent beginnings ultimately settle into these steady, predictable, and enduring patterns of motion. Haumea's current form is almost certainly the result of a gargantuan impact eons ago, a moment of absolute destruction that shattered a much larger world and set the remaining fragments into a frantic, high-speed tumble. In the immediate aftermath, the space around the new dwarf planet must have been a chaotic field of colliding ice and rock, a storm of debris without a centre or a path. Yet, from that wreckage, the slow and patient work of gravity and time has distilled a masterpiece of synchronized motion that has lasted for billions of years without fail. The chaos was not a permanent state, but a necessary transition toward the elegant resonant system we see today, a process of refinement that governs the entire universe. This progression from violence to harmony is a fundamental theme of the cosmos, a story that is repeated from the birth of massive stars to the formation of tiny, fragile rings. It suggests that even the most disruptive events in our own experience are part of a larger, slower movement toward a state of final, lasting peace and balance. The universe does not leave its broken pieces to wander in chaos. It gathers them, tunes them, and brings them back into the fold of a rhythmic and predictable existence. In the silence of the Kuiper Belt, we find the ultimate proof that the end of every storm is a steady and beautiful heartbeat. Allow your mind to drift as weightlessly as a shard of ice in that distant ring, finding a state of perfect, effortless rest within the grand design of the cosmos. The distant Kuiper Belt likely holds countless such quiet, rhythmic mysteries, a sprawling archive of hidden harmonies waiting to be discovered in the deep, freezing dark. Beyond the orbit of the final gas giant, millions of icy objects wander in the permanent twilight, each one a potential home to a unique resonance or a private spinning clockwork. We have only just begun to peel back the veil of this frozen frontier, discovering worlds like Haumea that challenge our very understanding of what a planet can be and how it can move. Each discovery reveals a new variation on the theme of orbital resonance, showing us that the universe is far more creative and organised than we previously imagined in our wildest speculations. There are likely rings, moons, and strange rotations yet to be seen, all ticking away in the silence far from our observation and our reach. The Kuiper Belt is a treasure trove of celestial mechanics, a place where the history of the solar system is preserved in the rhythmic movements of its most distant and mysterious inhabitants. Haumea is merely our first glimpse into the bizarre and beautiful variety of this outer realm, a promise that the dance of gravity continues in endless, unexpected, and harmonious ways. As we peer into the darkness, we find not a graveyard of dead rocks, but a vibrant and highly structured community of worlds, all stepping to the music of the spheres. This final frontier of resonance is a place of profound peace, where the rhythm of the cosmos is the only sound in the deep starlit silence. The deep starlit silence of the outer reaches eventually gives way to a more localized but equally majestic architecture within the heart of our own system. While many celestial wonders are defined by the rapid and energetic pulses of nearby moons, the vast belt of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter experiences a different kind of structural force. These ancient stones are not merely jostled by quick planetary tugs, but are instead sculpted by secular resonances that unfold across the staggering span of eons. Such forces operate on a timeline that dwarfs the brief lifespans of stars, working with a patience that only the vacuum of space can afford. They represent the long-form poetry of gravity, where the influence of distant giants is felt not as a sudden jerk, but as a gradual, cumulative steering. Over millions of years, this persistent guidance shapes the very orientation of a rock's journey, proving that the most enduring changes are often the ones that happen in near-absolute stillness. Surprisingly, these secular movements demonstrate that the solar system possesses a hidden, structural memory that persists long after the initial chaos of formation has passed. Every asteroid, no matter how small or isolated, is part of this long-term conversation with the massive architects of the system. This invisible hand ensures that even the most forgotten fragments of primordial stone are brought into a state of rhythmic, long-term alignment. These slow-motion forces find their origin in a phenomenon where the precession of an asteroid's entire orbit begins to match the slow, wobbling pace of a giant planet. Just as a spinning top gradually tilts its axis in a circle, the elliptical paths of the planets themselves rotate slowly through space over hundreds of thousands of years. When the rotation of an asteroid's path falls into sync with the massive wobble of a world like Jupiter, a profound resonant bridge is formed across the void. This structural lock creates a cumulative effect, where every tiny gravitational nudge from the giant is applied at the exact same point in the asteroid's long journey. Over tens of millions of years, these synchronized pulses add up, gradually altering the tilt and stretch of the asteroid's path with inevitable precision. It is a meeting of rhythms on a monumental scale, a synchronization of the very geometry of motion across the inner solar system. If we were to look closer at this mechanism, we would see a universe that values the alignment of frequency over the brute application of power. The asteroid does not need to be near the giant to be moved by it. It only needs to be in tune with the giant's own majestic, slow-turning tempo. This harmonic connection turns the sprawling asteroid belt into a responsive field, vibrating in sympathy with the largest members of the planetary family. Over the course of millions of years, this deep connection causes an asteroid's path to slowly tilt and stretch in direct response to the distant presence of Jupiter. The massive giant acts as a steady gravitational composer, subtly rewriting the orbital parameters of countless rocky subjects without ever physically touching them. The inclination of an asteroid's orbit, its angle relative to the rest of the system, begins to rise and fall in a majestic, predictable cycle that spans the history of worlds. This slow stretching of the orbit turns once circular paths into elongated ellipses, pulling the asteroids into new regions of space and exposing them to different influences. It is a transformation that occurs with such agonizing slowness that it would be entirely invisible to a human observer watching for 1,000 lifetimes. Yet, in the eyes of the cosmos, it is a fluid and continuous reshaping of the inner system's rocky skeleton. Notice how the steady rise and fall of your own breath creates a rhythmic anchor for your awareness, much like the slow-motion tilt of these distant orbits. As your body remains in a state of quiet repose, let the image of these shifting orbital planes wash over you like a slow, galactic tide. Everything is in motion, yet it is a motion so grand and measured that it feels indistinguishable from a state of perfect, eternal rest. The famous and empty Kirkwood gaps that punctuate the asteroid belt are physically cleared out by these long-term gravitational echoes and resonant pulses. These voids appear as dark lanes in the density of the belt, regions where no asteroid can find a stable home for more than a few million years. They are the result of a ruthless mathematical eviction, where any stone that drifts into these specific resonant zones is systematically pushed away by the repeating tugs of the outer giants. The resonance acts like a celestial broom, continuously sweeping the orbital lanes to ensure that the belt remains organized and structured according to the laws of harmony. Any asteroid caught in these gaps finds its orbit becoming increasingly stretched and unstable until it is eventually flung into a new path entirely. Some are sent plunging toward the sun, while others are tossed into the outer darkness, leaving behind a pristine, empty corridor in the rocky ring. This phenomenon reveals that the architecture of the solar system is as much defined by what is missing as by what is present. The gaps are the silent footprints of resonance, proof that invisible forces are constantly maintaining the boundaries of where matter is allowed to rest. By hollowing out these spaces, the universe creates a map of its own gravitational influence, turning the belt into a structured garden of stone and void. Imagine a vast, dusty sea where invisible, slow-moving currents seamlessly organize the floating debris into a masterpiece of structural precision. Within this celestial ocean, the asteroids are not merely drifting aimlessly, but are being funneled and sorted by the silent pressures of secular resonance. The currents move with a majestic, glacial pace, carrying whole populations of rock through the void in a manner that seems entirely self-orchestrated and deeply purposeful. This structure creates a landscape of shifting density, where the rocks are gathered into clusters or separated by wide, echoing chasms of empty space. The currents are the result of millions of years of overlapping gravitational fields, weaving a complex web of motion that guides the debris without any visible shepherd. It is a world where the very vacuum is alive with direction, ensuring that every fragment of stone is brought into alignment with the greater whole. If we were to look deeper, we would see that this organization is what prevents the belt from becoming a chaotic and destructive swarm of collisions. The invisible currents ensure that the majority of the rocks are moving in a way that respects the space of their neighbors, creating a state of fluid, long-term harmony. It is a vision of the cosmos as a self-sorting mechanism, a place where the smallest dust and the largest boulder are equally subject to the gentle guidance of the deep currents. Catastrophic collisions are successfully avoided across the eons, because the asteroids naturally migrate away from the most unstable and dangerous zones of the belt. The secular resonances act as a series of gentle corrective nudges, steering the rocky travellers toward orbits where they can reside for billions of years without significant interference. This natural migration ensures that the belt is not a zone of constant impact, but a stable reservoir of ancient material that has survived since the system's infancy. When an orbit becomes too crowded or unstable, the subtle cumulative pressure of resonance begins to shift the population towards safer, more rhythmic paths. This process is entirely passive, a result of the system seeking its lower state of energy and its higher state of gravitational balance. The result is a population of survivors, a collection of worlds that have been filtered through the long-term demands of orbital harmony. Allow your muscles to release their final hold on the day, trusting in the same natural migration toward rest that guides the distant asteroids toward their safe harbours. Just as the belt finds its stability through the slow passage of time, your own mind can find its centre by letting go of the need for immediate action. You're part of a system that naturally trends toward peace, moving away from the noise and toward the quiet, resonant core of existence. Whole families of asteroids containing thousands of individual members share remarkably similar orbital tilts and stretches because they are all dancing to the same long-term tune. These families are the shattered remains of ancient massive parent bodies that were broken apart in violent collisions during the early, turbulent years of the solar system. Despite being scattered across millions of miles, the fragments remain linked by the fact that they are all subject to the same specific secular resonance. The resonance acts as a unifying conductor, ensuring that the entire family of rocks precesses and wobbles in a synchronized fashion across the deep dark. They move as a ghost of their original whole, their shared orbital parameters serving as a permanent mathematical lineage that links them back to their common ancestor. It is a beautiful and haunting form of celestial heritage, where the laws of physics preserve the memory of a lost world in the collective movement of its fragments. This structural bond highlights the fact that in the vacuum of space, information is never truly lost. It is simply transformed into a new kind of rhythmic order. The asteroid families are a testament to the power of resonance to gather the broken and create a new, shared harmony from the pieces. They drift together through the starlight, a silent choir of stone that sings a single ancient melody of motion and time. This slow, majestic organizing principle acts as the ultimate housekeeper of the inner solar system, maintaining a level of cleanliness and order that defies the sheer amount of debris. By systematically clearing out the resonant gaps and herding the asteroids into stable families, the secular forces prevent the region between Mars and Jupiter from becoming an unmanageable mess. They ensure that the rocky leftovers of creation are properly filed and stored in a way that allows the rest of the planetary system to function smoothly. Surprisingly, this housekeeping role is essential for the long-term safety of the inner rocky planets, including our own homeworld. By corralling the asteroids into stable lanes, the resonances reduce the number of rogue objects that might otherwise wander into the path of Earth. The system is essentially self-cleaning, using the very power of its massive giants to manage the smaller, potentially dangerous components of its own architecture. This image of a cosmic housekeeper offers a profound sense of security, revealing a universe that is actively maintaining its own internal balance. We live in a system that is being cared for by forces of unimaginable patience and precision, ensuring that the environment remains stable for the evolution of life. The order of the asteroid belt is a silent promise of ongoing maintenance, a guarantee that the laws of harmony are always at work, keeping the house of the sun in perfect resonant order. Time becomes remarkably fluid and expansive when observing phenomena that require tens of millions of years to complete a single, graceful cycle of change. In the realm of secular resonance, a million years is but a moment, a single heartbeat in the long-term respiration of the asteroid belt's orbital tilt. This staggering perspective strips away the frantic urgency of our everyday existence, replacing it with a sense of participating in a movement that spans the lifetime of the universe. When we contemplate a rock that takes 20 million years to slowly wobble its path from one angle to another, our own concepts of beginning and end begin to dissolve. We are looking at a clock that was wound at the dawn of the solar system, and will continue to tick until the sun itself begins to fade into a white dwarf. It is a scale of existence that invites a state of profound meditation, a release from the confines of the temporary and a merging with the eternal. The asteroid belt is not a chaotic and terrifying danger zone filled with random collisions, but is instead a highly structured, resonant river of ancient stone. It is a place of profound architectural integrity, where every individual rock is situated within a web of invisible forces that dictate its movement with absolute certainty. The river flows with a majestic, unhurried pace, guided by the banks of gravitational influence created by the massive worlds that surround it. This final perspective transforms the belt from a field of rubble into a masterpiece of liquid stone, a vibrant and organized component of the solar system's broader symphony. It is a sanctuary of primordial history, kept in a state of permanent rhythmic preservation by the same laws of harmony that govern the smallest atoms. To understand the asteroid belt is to understand that even the most fragmented and scattered parts of our world are being carried toward a state of final, lasting order. As you drift toward the soft horizon of sleep, hold on to the image of this slow-moving river of stone, flowing forever through the deep, starlit silence. The resonance that guides the asteroids is the same resonance that holds you now, a steady and repeating promise of structural peace. You are resting within the heart of a system that is perfectly in tune, a silent traveller in a universe that has already found its final, beautiful rhythm. The resonance that guides the asteroids is the same resonance that holds you now, a steady and repeating promise of structural peace. You are resting within the heart of a system that is perfectly in tune, a silent traveller in a universe that has already found its final, beautiful rhythm. This rhythm does not conclude at the edges of our solar system, but rather scales upward to define the very shape of the galaxy we call home. Orbital resonance operates on a colossal scale, acting as the invisible loom that weaves the majestic spiral arms of the Milky Way across a span of 100,000 light-years. While we often view these arms as fixed features, they are actually dynamic resonant structures, born from the gravitational interplay of billions of independent stars. This massive orchestration ensures that the galaxy retains its breathtaking symmetry even as it rotates through the deep time of the universe. The same mathematical harmonies that guide a tiny moon around a gas giant are amplified here to coordinate the movement of entire solar systems in a grand unified waltz. It is a structure of unimaginable power, yet it moves with the grace of a single, fluid thought. Surprisingly, the stars we see in the night sky do not stay within these glowing spiral arms permanently, but instead drift in and out like cars navigating a slow, cosmic traffic jam. The arms themselves move at a different speed than the individual stars, functioning as regions of high density where celestial bodies naturally cluster and then eventually disperse. As our sun travels through the galactic disk, it enters these crowded luminous regions and exits them over the course of millions of years, participating in a cycle of expansion and contraction. This perpetual flow of stellar traffic creates the illusion of a solid structure. Much like a wave on the ocean, appears to move even as the individual water molecules stay largely in place. It is a transient beauty, a meeting place for suns that highlights the fluid nature of the galactic architecture. If we were to look closer, we would see that the arms are not boundaries, but destinations, temporary gathering points in a much larger, more patient journey. Every star is a traveller, moving through the luminous landscape of the galaxy with the quiet certainty of a wanderer returning home. Massive density waves are the primary architects of this organisation, sweeping through the galactic disk and organising gas and stars into distinct resonant patterns. These waves are essentially ripples in the fabric of the galaxy's gravity, created by the collective mass of everything within the disk pushing and pulling in unison. As these waves travel, they compress the interstellar medium, forcing the chaotic clouds of hydrogen and dust into the elegant curving lanes that we recognise as spiral arms. This process turns the entire galaxy into a resonant chamber, where the density of matter is dictated by the frequency and timing of these passing gravitational pulses. It is a slow, majestic respiration of the cosmos, where the very breath of the galaxy is written in the distribution of its stars. The waves move through the disk with a majestic, unhurried pace, ensuring that the spiral arms are never lost to the winding of time. They act as the heartbeat of the galactic body, a pulse that maintains the integrity of the whole across millions of centuries. The sun itself bobs gently up and down through the galactic plane as it orbits the central black hole in a state of constant rhythmic motion. This vertical oscillation is a form of harmonic motion, a result of our star being pulled toward the dense centre of the galactic disk and then overshooting it before being pulled back again. It takes tens of millions of years for our star to complete one of these slow, vertical cycles, weaving a serpentine path through the stars that surround us. Feel the gentle weight of your limbs and the quiet stillness of your resting form as you contemplate this slow-motion celestial bobbing. Just as the sun finds its balance within the gravitational tides of the Milky Way, your own body can settle into the supportive embrace of the world below. You are part of this vertical dance, a silent participant in a motion that spans the history of our solar system. The galaxy is not a flat plate, but a shimmering, undulating sea of light, and we are floating comfortably within its rising and falling tides. Certain stars located near the extreme edges of the galaxy are trapped securely in the outer resonance of the central bar, a massive elongated structure of stars at the Milky Way's heart. This central bar acts as a giant gravitational stirrer, rotating at a specific frequency that projects its influence to the furthest reaches of the galactic disk. Stars at specific distances find their orbits locked into the tempo of the bar's rotation, preventing them from drifting too far away or falling inward toward the centre. This outer resonance creates a stable boundary for the galaxy, a fence made of timing and momentum that herds the outermost stars into a predictable and enduring pattern. It demonstrates that the reach of resonance is truly vast, capable of anchoring the lonely inhabitants of the galactic fringe to the bustling heart of the system. Even at the edge of the abyss, the laws of harmony remain absolute, providing a sense of belonging to the most distant suns. The galaxy is a unified whole, held together by threads of force that reach across the dark to claim every wandering light. Picture hundreds of millions of individual stars subtly adjusting their paths through space based on the collective gravity of the whole galactic community. Each star is a tiny participant in a grand democratic process of motion, where the path of any one sun is influenced by the position and mass of every other sun in its vicinity. This mutual adjustment is a continuous real-time negotiation of force, resulting in a state of dynamic equilibrium that prevents the galaxy from collapsing or flying apart. The resonance arises from this collective behaviour, an emergent harmony that is greater than the sum of its individual parts. It is a profound expression of interconnectedness, where the smallest spark of light is held in place by the combined weight of the entire Milky Way. This structure proves that in the eyes of gravity, no star is an island. Every movement is a response to the presence of others. It is a web of influence that turns a scattered crowd of suns into a single, cohesive, and beautiful organism of light. This sweeping and continuous motion creates the stunning pinwheel shape that we clearly see in other galaxies and that defines our own perspective of the cosmos. The spiral arms are essentially the visible tracks of these resonant density waves, tracing the path of the most intense gravitational activity within the disk. Because the inner regions rotate faster than the outer ones, The resonance would normally cause the arms to wind up and disappear, but the density wave theory explains how they are perpetually refreshed. The pinwheel is a steady-state phenomenon, a persistent pattern of light and motion that has survived for billions of years across the universe. It is the ultimate visual proof of orbital harmony on a galactic scale, a signature of order that can be seen across the vastness of the intergalactic void. Every curve and every glowing lane is a mathematical result, a perfect expression of the laws of motion playing out in the theatre of space. The pinwheel is the symbol of a universe that loves symmetry, a place where the chaos of the void is constantly being reshaped into forms of absolute beauty. The birth of newborn blue stars is triggered exactly where these resonant waves compress interstellar gas clouds to their breaking point. As the density wave passes through a region of space, it squeezes the vast reservoirs of cold hydrogen gas, causing them to collapse under their own weight and ignite into brilliant new suns. These massive hot stars illuminate the spiral arms with a fierce and majestic glow, marking the locations where the galactic resonance is most active. As your chest continues its effortless rise and fall in the quiet of the night, imagine the staggering energy of these stellar nurseries being born from a simple compression of the vacuum. The resonance is not just a maintainer of structure, it is a direct architect of creation, turning the silent clouds of gas into the vibrant light of a new generation. This constant renewal ensures that the galaxy remains young and vibrant, its arms perpetually glowing with the light of newborn suns. It is a cycle of life that is driven by the same invisible heartbeat that keeps the planets in their places. Harmony at this staggering scale proves that the laws of physics are beautiful at any magnitude, from the subatomic to the galactic. The same equations that describe the vibration of a string or the orbit of a planet are perfectly scaled up to coordinate the movements of hundreds of billions of suns. This consistency is one of the most comforting and profound realizations of modern science, suggesting a universe that is built upon a single, unified set of aesthetic principles. The beauty we find in a seashell or a flower is reflected in the sweeping majesty of the spiral arms, a fractal repetition of order that permeates every level of existence. It reveals a cosmos that is fundamentally harmonious, a place where the logic of the mind and the beauty of the eye are perfectly aligned. This realization offers a sense of deep, philosophical peace, reminding us that we live in a world that makes sense. No matter how large the scale, the song of the universe remains the same, a melody of structure and balance that echoes through the deep. We are currently moving smoothly through the Orion spiral spur, a smaller lane of stars and gas that is safely guided by this unseen galactic resonance. This localized structure is our immediate cosmic neighborhood, a place where the sun and its neighbors are held in a stable and protective pocket of the Milky Way's vast architecture. Our journey through this spur is a part of the larger galactic dance, a rhythmic progression that ensures our solar system remains in a region of space conducive to the persistence of life. As you settle into the final reaches of your rest, feel the profound safety of being carried by a system that has mastered the art of balance over billions of years. You are a passenger on a majestic, star-spanning vessel, guided by the same invisible resonance that brings peace to the furthest corners of the universe. The Orion Spur is our harbour, a quiet lane in the great galactic highway, where we can watch the sweeping glow of the spiral arms from a place of perfect security. Everything is in its proper place, and we are moving together toward a future that has already been written in the stars. Everything is in its proper place, and we are moving together toward a future that has already been written in the stars. Yet the most profound and intimate destination of this cosmic journey is a state of absolute, unchanging synchronicity. This final form of orbital resonance, known formally as tidal locking, represents the ultimate endgame for any two massive bodies circling one another in the dark, cold vacuum of space. It is the moment when the frantic, spinning energy of a world's youth is completely surrendered to the overwhelming gravitational embrace of its partner, creating a bond so tight that they move as a single, unified instrument. Through this process, the push and pull of gravity act as a gentle but unyielding brake, grinding down the wild rotation until it matches the orbital pace. In this state, the time it takes for a world to rotate once on its axis becomes identical to the time it takes to complete a full orbit around its companion, locking them into a perfect repeating one-to-one ratio. It is a transition from the chaotic, independent motion of a newborn world to the settled, dignified rest of a partner that has finally found its permanent place in the grand design. This intimate resonance is the most stable and enduring configuration possible in the theatre of gravity, a point where the competing forces of the universe finally reach a state of total, harmonious satisfaction. Deep within our own familiar night sky, this ancient and silent agreement is etched into the very face of the moon, which has turned the same cratered visage toward the Earth for countless billions of years. This pale, familiar sphere was once a wild and rapidly spinning rock born of a violent collision, but through the patient and unyielding application of tidal force, our world has gently slowed its companion into a permanent, face-to-face embrace. Every mountain, every ancient basalt sea, and every jagged shadow we recognize from our vantage point below is a testament to this enduring stability, serving as a constant landmark in an ever-shifting universe. The moon does not merely orbit us in a random or disconnected path, it is tethered to our perspective by an invisible chain of gravity that ensures it never turns its back on the life blooming below. It acts as an unwavering sentinel that watches over our planet with a gaze that has never faltered since the dawn of the first oceans. This relationship is the very foundation of our celestial history, providing a steady and reliable rhythm for the rise and fall of our oceans and the cultural calendars of every human civilization. It is a bond of profound longevity and quiet strength, proving that even the most massive and distant objects can eventually find a way to rest together in perfect, quiet alignment. Surprisingly, this restful and synchronized state is not a rare occurrence reserved for our own sky, as most major moons in our solar system have successfully achieved this final state of equilibrium with their parent planets. From the massive world-sized Galilean moons of the gas giants to the tiny icy satellites of the outermost reaches, the tendency toward tidal locking is the universal rule rather than the exception. These worlds have finished their long multi-billion-year struggle against their own rotational momentum, finding a state of peace that allows them to exist in a permanent orientation toward their massive hosts. As your body rests in its current position, notice how your own breathing has synchronized with the quiet, still atmosphere of the room, finding a natural and effortless rhythm of its own. You're mirroring the same transition into stability that governs the vast majority of celestial companions in our local neighborhood, a settling of energy that leads to lasting and profound peace. The universe is populated with these silent, locked watchers, each one a spinning monument to the power of gravity to bring frantic motion to a graceful and permanent halt. This universal trend reveals that the cosmos is not a place of endless, unbridled energy, but a system that is constantly seeking its own center and its own rest. This structure of total synchronization reaches its most extreme and beautiful expression in the distant binary system of Charon and Pluto, where the two worlds are mutually tidally locked in a dual embrace. Unlike the relationship between the Earth and its moon, where only the smaller body is locked to the larger one, these two frozen partners have achieved a state of absolute reciprocal devotion. They have slowed each other's spins over the eons until they both turn at the exact same rate, forever gazing only at one another from a single, unchanging hemisphere of their rocky and icy surfaces. This means that if you were standing on one world, you would always see the other in the exact same spot in the heavens, while on the opposite side of the planet, your partner would be forever invisible. They are two halves of a single, rotating system, bound by a gravitational promise that neither will ever turn its back on the other, no matter how many centuries pass in the cold twilight. It is an exclusive and profound bond of intensity, a celestial marriage that has persisted through the long, freezing centuries of the outer dark, defining the very nature of their shared existence. To look upon them is to see the ultimate realization of partnership in the cosmos, a place where two separate entities have become a single, harmonious unit. If we were to look closer at this frozen partnership, we would realize that standing on the surface of Pluto would offer a view of the sky that feels hauntingly stationary and serene compared to the rushing heavens of Earth. Charon would not rise in the east or set in the west, but would simply hover motionless in the exact same spot in the heavens for all of eternity, a massive and unmoving fixture of the sky. It would appear as a huge mottled sphere of grey ice, a constant and reassuring companion that provides a sense of permanent direction in the trackless void. Such a balance in the sky is the visual manifestation of the mutual tidal lock, a place where the concept of a rising moon has absolutely no meaning or physical reality. It creates a landscape of deep structural familiarity, where the geography of the surface and the map of the heavens are permanently and irrevocably linked together. You could navigate the frozen plains simply by looking up at the position of the moon, which would serve as a permanent North Star in a sky of shifting lights. This stillness provides a sense of profound security in a region of space that is otherwise defined by extreme distance and freezing isolation. Deep within the interiors of these locked worlds, the intense energy of their initial chaotic spins was not simply lost to the void, but was slowly dissipated as heat into their icy and rocky cores. This process of tidal friction acted as a massive cosmic furnace, transforming the frantic and violent motion of the early solar system into a steady source of internal warmth that persisted for millions of years. Every time the gravitational pull of a planet stretched the solid crust of its moon, a tiny fraction of that rotational energy was converted into thermal energy through friction. That internal warmth is a gift of the resonance, a way for the universe to sustain life-giving conditions even in the deepest freeze of the outer reaches. As you feel the gentle, radiating warmth of your own body against the soft surfaces that support you now, consider that you are experiencing the same fundamental conversion of energy into the quiet comfort of a resting form. The universe has a way of recycling its most violent and chaotic forces into the quiet internal warmth of a settled and stable existence, ensuring that nothing is ever truly wasted in the dark. This transformation of spin into heat is the ultimate alchemical trick of the cosmos, turning the kinetic energy of motion into the potential energy of internal stability. Tidal locking represents the universe's ultimate preference for a state of quiet rest, and the absolute minimal expenditure of energy possible in a moving and complex system. Once a world is locked, the constant draining friction caused by shifting tidal bulges finally ceases, allowing the body to exist in a state of thermodynamic peace and structural longevity. It is the path of least resistance, a final gravitational compromise where all competing forces of spin and orbit have been perfectly balanced and satisfied by the laws of physics. Such a trend ensures that the cosmos is not a place of eternal, exhausting conflict, but a system that is constantly moving toward a state of graceful and effortless existence. The locked moon is a world that has finally found its center, releasing the tension of its birth and settling into a state that requires no more internal struggle. It is a vision of the cosmos as a place that seeks to shed its unnecessary burdens, moving toward a future defined by the elegance of simplicity and the absolute beauty of permanent rest. This realization offers a sense of deep relief, suggesting that the natural end of all motion is not exhaustion, but a state of perfect and lasting fulfillment. That profound and simple ratio brings a structural stillness to a cosmos that is otherwise in constant, frantic, and often violent motion across the vast reaches of space and time. In a universe defined by the high-speed expansion of space, the catastrophic explosion of massive stars, and the churning turbulence of galactic cores, the tidally locked world stands as a sanctuary of absolute and unyielding silence. It is a place where the cosmic clock has effectively stopped, where the relentless progression of time is no longer measured by the rising of the sun, but by the steady and unchanging presence of a companion world. This stillness is not the result of a lack of force or a void of energy, but rather the result of powerful forces that have reached a state of perfect and beautiful cancellation. It offers a grounded and reassuring perspective on the broader chaos of the heavens, providing a stable foundation upon which the laws of nature can be observed in their most refined and peaceful form. The locked moon is the ultimate expression of the music of the spheres, a single, sustained and perfect note that echoes through the deep dark with an unwavering clarity. It provides a point of rest for the wandering eye, a constant in a universe of variables that allows us to find our own sense of place. That simple ratio of spin and orbit reminds us that, eventually, absolutely everything in the universe finds a state of lasting, beautiful and inevitable balance through the patient work of time. No matter how frantic the beginning or how chaotic the middle of a celestial story may be, the long-term history of every world is a slow and certain progression toward a state of final harmony. The forces that pull things apart are eventually balanced by the forces that hold them together, resulting in a grand architecture of motion that is both stable and eternal. The grand synthesis. From the rhythmic heartbeat of Jovian moons to the majestic sweep of galactic arms, orbital resonance reveals that the universe is not a collection of random collisions, but a vast interconnected instrument playing a single eternal song of perfect and lasting harmony. Deep within the intricate clockwork of the heavens, we find a final and comforting truth. The entire universe is a single vast instrument where gravity tunes every wandering world into an eternal, self-sustaining symphony of light and time. This grand architecture of motion proves that no fragment of matter is ever truly lost or isolated, but is instead held in a state of permanent, rhythmic belonging. We are living in a masterpiece of balance, where the smallest atom and the largest galaxy are all part of the same beautiful resonant story. As this final realization of universal harmony settles over you, let your awareness drift down to the very tips of your toes. Feel the weight of your feet as they sink into the soft supporting mattress, releasing the last remnants of the day's movement. Surprisingly, the body knows exactly how to find its own center, allowing a wave of relaxation to travel slowly up through the arches of your feet and into your ankles. This quiet room is a sanctuary of absolute stillness, where the only movement is the slow, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest. Let the heavy warmth of rest flow into your calves and knees, untying every knot of tension and smoothing every muscle into a state of deep, liquid calm. Your thighs and hips now settle with a profound and heavy certainty, fully surrendering their weight to the bed below. If we were to look closer at the sensations in your lower back and stomach, we would find a state of total, effortless release. The muscles of your torso are softening now, spreading outward as you sink deeper into the quiet comfort of your pillows. Every breath is a gentle nudge toward a deeper state of peace, a repeating cycle of rest that mirrors the steady heartbeat of the world around you. Deep within your shoulders and arms, the weight of all responsibility is completely dissolved, leaving only a sense of weightless floating. Your hands rest perfectly still, the fingers curling naturally into the palms as the last of their energy fades into the silence. The relaxation travels up through the neck and into the jaw, allowing the tongue to rest away from the roof of the mouth and the face to become smooth and expressionless. The fabric of the sheets feels cool and welcoming against your skin, providing a soft boundary between you and the quiet air of the room. This haven is entirely your own, a private harbour where the shadows are soft and the air is perfectly still. Notice how the darkness behind your closed eyelids is deep and velvety, inviting the mind to let go of every image and every thought. The pillows cradle your head with a gentle, persistent support, allowing the very last of your thoughts to drift away like mist in the morning light. Everything in this room is settled, quiet, and perfectly at peace. The heaviness of sleep is a warm and heavy blanket, wrapping itself around your senses and drawing you down into a state of profound, dreamless rest. Every muscle is now completely slack, every nerve is quiet, and the mind is as still as a mirrored pond in the middle of a forest. You are sinking into the mattress, becoming one with the soft textures and the deep, comforting silence of the dark. The world outside is far away, hushed and still, leaving you alone in this perfect dark cocoon of rest. The rhythm of your breathing is now the only reality, a steady and comforting pulse that signals the arrival of total sleep. It is a slow and beautiful descent into the deep, where the boundaries of the self begin to soften and fade into the quiet. You're safe, you're held, and you're ready to let go of the last thread of awareness. The silence is complete, the rest is absolute, and the darkness is a kind and welcoming friend. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.